within and surrounding Baltimore. Don't ask him about preseason games, oh no. Stuffing things in Griffin Basso. Despite it being on the internet, he can call it what he wants, so Glenn Clark Radio. Glenn Clark Radio. Glenn Clark Radio. Duke sucks.
There was a timeout. You said, I'm not going to say the full thing, but you said, get me the ball when you came out of the timeout. Where does that confidence come from?
I mean, so I think I'm from Baltimore, that's why. And then I kind of had it going all game. Man, my teammates had it going, and like I said, like they trusted me to take that last shot.
There was a timeout. You said, I'm not going to say.
Where you come in here and we do this show, it's lamentable. I mean, trust me, I'm still quite aware that I'm not digging ditches or, working at a pizza shop, or actually that sounds great. I kind of think I might like working at a pizza shop. I don't know if that's an option. There's days where you just come in here and it's doing this, huh? And as I'm going to write about today at PressBoxOnline.com, it's those days that make something like this all the more meaningful. That was cool, even if you're a casual sports fan, Baltimore sports fan. That was cool. You can understand. NCAA tournament, game-winning shot. Even if that's all you know, you just happen to be watching because it's the NCAA tournament and people were talking about it. Maybe you filled out an office bracket pool. If that's the only reason why you watch, you don't know who Derik Queen is. You don't know everything that's going on surrounding the Maryland basketball program right now. You don't know that they lost 4 times on buzzer beaters. You would still think it was cool. You would still feel something. It's funny because Chris, in the song that he did for us, does the sports you do and don't know. And I know my buddy Chris, he's way more Orioles than anything else. I don't know how in tune he is with college, although he does listen to this show every day. But for someone like that, even if you know nothing, you feel that moment, it hits you. You say, that's cool. That's cool, man. That's really cool. But for everyone that is ardent, that is hardcore, that lives and breathes Baltimore sports, local sports, whatever you want to call it, Maryland, University of Maryland, it's something beyond that. It's that all of the S that you eat over and over and over again makes a day like today mean so much more. It's why you watch sports. We get a handful of those moments every year. When they happen, you know them. You know it. Hey, this is why we watch. We watch because you're going to be fulfilled. Because every now and then, Cedric Mullins is going to hit for the cycle and make an absurd defensive catch. And you're just going to be grateful that that's how you spent your evening, was watching. Because every now and then, Lamar Jackson's going to, just be Lamar.
Not every now and
just
then.
be Lamar Jackson, I guess. But it goes beyond that. Every now and then, there's going to be something spectacular that's going to happen. That Maryland-Notre Dame lacrosse game earlier this year. Like, there's going to be some of those. It's why you watch. It's why we do this. Inherently. Why we put ourselves through it. And it had everything. We'll get into some of the details. We will. We'll handle the. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on did Derik Queen travel, because my God, is that an empty conversation?
Yeah, he traveled straight to the Sweet 16.
The crazy part being, again, it depends on who you ask whether he even, by the letter of the law, traveled. Like, it's not even one of those things where it's like blatantly obvious by the letter of the law that he did. It's very close to, as Gene Steratoy pointed out, you don't start counting the steps until the ball is completely handled.
The gather. Everyone gets a gather.
But you don't get a gather in college basketball. That's the difference.
Okay.
You do not get a gather step in college basketball. Gene Steratoy's point is not about there. It's not about a gather step. It's about you don't start the steps until you've definitely finished the dribble. I couldn't tell you, but it doesn't matter. And even if it is, it's been 25 years since that would be called in a basketball game of any sort, not just the NBA. You're like, that's because the NBA has impacted college basketball. Dude, you are 2.5 decades behind. Like, if that's what you're screaming about, it's your first ever basketball game. You're new to the sport, and somebody told you they're supposed to, like, I thought they said they were supposed to dribble. And all of the other machinations, the fact that he absolutely got fouled on the play, which also is never going to be called in that spot. Like, it's just not. And the same thing that we would have been doing here had Derik Queen missed the shot, where we would have slowed down the replay and shown how obvious and blatant of a block it was when you bring your body out and you fully bump him. They're never going to call it. It's never going to get called. So we'd be screaming into the void as well. You feel for people that care about Colorado State because, goddamn, that's a good team, man. That is a really good team. And there's a reason why so many people warned about this being the 12th seed. It wasn't just that they were a threat to beat Memphis. They were a threat to keep winning. That's all they've been doing for some time. It's a really good team. I will say well-coached team, but I will acknowledge that it felt like part of the coaching last night was let's see what we can get away with, and officiating conspired with that. Is that good coaching? I mean, I guess if you've studied the officials and, like, you know the officials aren't going to a differently officiated game, that wouldn't be good coaching. But the way the game was officiated, plus the apparent strategy to just see what we can get away with, it worked out. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to hit a buzzer beater, maybe you'd rather save that for the Florida game. Would have rather had the Colorado State game be a bit more comfortable and save dramatics for the Florida game, but it doesn't work that way. All of those things, they're all real. How good is Maryland? I don't know. Jeremy Conn thinks they'll beat Florida. We'll talk to him later. I don't feel great about that. They did not play anywhere close to as well as they're capable of playing, and yet they won against a good team that was playing well. This is what makes this basketball tournament so great, man. All the bitching and the hand-wringing about, well, there aren't any lower than 12 seeds. I mean, actually lower than 10 seeds that are left at this point. Okay. We just need something to complain about desperately. Well, there weren't any buzzer beaters until last night.
Well, we did get one last night. So yeah.
One, yes, you did. And two, there were other opportunities for buzzer beaters and some really piss-poor shots. Like the Wisconsin thing on Saturday night. This is the eternal. We praise Kevin Willard for. Derik Queen said he wanted the ball in his hands, and you just said we're living and dying that way. And that's just basketball anymore. Like, it's beyond the days of, like, we don't consider anything other than isolate for one guy to go make a play. And I get it. What would happen if, for example, on Saturday, Wisconsin did anything other than having Tanjay take that final shot? We'd murder them. We'd say there's no way you can do anything other than have Tanjay take that final shot. But this is what happens. When you call up a play that only has one possibility, that the ball is going to die in someone's hands, sometimes the ball dies in someone's hands, and you get horrible looks without the possibility of there being someone wide open somewhere else. But that's also basketball now. It's borderline hilarious that they even bother to defend anyone else. And Derik Queen isn't Tanjay because he's not a guard, but this is what we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. That like when
Who's
you
the
need
guy? Yeah.
who's the alpha, we just talked about it with Gravis on Friday. And what we seemed to learn, particularly in the Big Ten tournament, was it was gonna be Derik Queen. That when everything was on the line, it was gonna turn to Derik Queen, who was good last night on the whole, but not dominant.
I feel like they got away from it at some point, too.
They definitely seemed to get away from him, and the boards were very shaky last night. I mean, like, this is where, as much as we've been dismissive about the depth and the minutes and how it impacts this team, and as much as we talked about the long timeouts in the NCAA tournament, that's now consecutive weeks. And I get it, Michigan's a different animal. They present those 2 7-footers.
Yeah.
But the second week in a row, or the second game of the weekend, they really struggled on the glass. Really struggled. And then you saw a couple of missed free throws late as well, which is also something that you tend to see when your legs are starting to go.
Not from Juju, though.
No, not from Juju. But, like, much more surprisingly from Jacoby Gillespie.
Yeah.
Like, someone that you don't ever expect to see missing a free throw. Whatever. Whatever, man. They won. God, imagine being the idiot that took Colorado State to win in the second round of the NCAA tournament.
It would do that.
Way off.
God.
Way off. Just burning points on fire. Who would? God. That's pathetic. So anyway, Griffin.
Would have looked real smart, though. You know.
What's that?
Would have looked real smart, though.
Right, if they had won. Did they win?
Some points. No.
No, okay. Just
Maryland
wanted to,
won.
right. So it doesn't look really smart.
And I am still really happy. That's the other thing.
Because Colorado State lost.
And I'm still really happy because I do like Maryland, unlike some people in this room.
Yeah. Did I take? Well, who? You go check. Did I have them in the Sweet 16?
Because
I'm pretty sure I did.
Check. Yeah.
Pretty sure I did. That's the case.
Oh, wow, your bracket's doing okay.
Yeah. I've had a decent
fifth place here.
I'm up to 5th?
Yeah.
I was 14th with like 2 games left last night.
Man, imagine taking Louisville.
Yeah. That's stupid.
To the Sweet 16.
That would be stupid.
Man.
Was I in 5th place? How much? I got to move that much in 2 games. That's wild.
I don't know. I mean, you got.
I guess there were 3 games left last night. I don't know. I checked after the Maryland game is when I checked. I was like, all that matters is
point. Yeah, so.
you really the only and this is the. Stop worrying about where you are in the bracket contest. Worry about where you are in comparison to other people that took the same team that you took to win the national championship. It doesn't matter if you're in first. It just matters if you're in first among the people that for my.
Yeah, that's why I have no shot because I have Duke.
Yeah, and there's 100 people that have Duke, and they're way ahead of you. So you're more or less, unless you have a really specific Final Four. Like
my specific Final Four would be again. Oh yeah, I'd say Johnson in the Final Four. That was the one wild pick. That was the one wild card. St. John's.
Don't seem great. I am in 5th, and I have a little bit of distance on. I have 20 points over the next Houston picker. So that can close. That can change. That's not enough separation that I feel good. This all comes down to you need your team to win the national. You can be in it until the last night. This happened a year ago. Where I remember that was I think Kelly and Jen were down with the final 2 going into the championship game, and then I believe Jen won and Kelly. Either way, whoever had the other side, whoever had Purdue, went from like second or tied for first place to like 24th or something like that because so many people had UConn. It just. The national championship part is the part that matters. You got to get the champion right in a bracket contest because that is worth so many points. And there are more and more points that go by the wayside as you get deeper into the tournament because you didn't have those teams in those games. So that's what matters in the bracket. How do we get sidetracked by that? Oh, I was dunking on you because you picked Colorado State.
Could have been a good. Could have been a great pick.
Right? Lots of things would be great picks if they happen. That's a great point. Like, for example, if you picked Alabama State over Auburn, it would have been a great pick if Alabama State had beaten Auburn.
Would have felt good.
But they didn't. And Colorado State didn't beat Maryland. So
no, they didn't.
It wasn't a great pick.
But it would have been.
Right, 100%.
And that's what we're talking about.
Lots of things would be true if they were true. But they're not.
Did you want to talk about the game, or did you want to talk about,
I kind of enjoy this. I'm being honest with you. I'm kind of enjoying this. I said last night, everyone involved with this city should be looking to find a way to license and market. I'm from Baltimore. That's why. It's the greatest stretch of 5 words I've ever seen. It encompasses so much. I hate saying this. There are already T-shirts available. I feel terrible saying these words. The problem is they're too Maryland-centric. They need to figure out a way to get that phrase on a shirt that opens it up for people that don't care about Maryland basketball. And it's a funny thing, right? Because in a way, this is great outreach for the University of Maryland, who a lot of us have felt have not done a tremendous job with their connection to Baltimore over the years. And to be fair, we're so provincial that they almost can't. Like it's a moving target. I could generically agree with the idea that Maryland hasn't done a great job of marketing Baltimore. I could generically agree with that. But if somebody said, well, how do you fix that? It's much more difficult. For years, we wanted them to play more games in Baltimore, but there wasn't a building that you could play games in Baltimore. It was dilapidated. Now the building is fixed, and the problem actually becomes it's harder to get the dates. You could have had any dates you wanted when the building stunk. Now it's way more difficult to get the dates. And, of course, you're giving up a lot when it comes to revenue when you don't have a game in your own building. So if they have a marquee game, it would be dramatically better for them to play it in College Park from a financial standpoint. If they try to move a second-rate game to Baltimore, this is who we are as a people. We're not – they tried that. They played Charlotte in Baltimore, and we were all like, yeah, okay. A handful of us showed up. They played Loyola, Illinois, who was coming off a run to the Final Four, and, like, it felt like that was the perfect in-between. It's not a marquee game, but it's kind of interesting. They were darlings of the NCAA tournament the year before, Sister Jean, the whole thing. Like, that was cool, and we responded with a collective meh towards that. It's a very difficult – it would need to be that it's not a home game, that somebody from the outside comes in and underwrites the event the way that the Hall of Fame underwrote the event that Penn State and Virginia Tech and Villanova and Virginia all played in last year. And who's going to want to do that because it's a certain home game for Maryland. So it's a tricky spot to be in. We complain about it. A lot of people that do the complaining, with all due respect, are people that want Maryland to spend money with them. And I don't blame them. I wish Maryland spent money with press box. I wish everyone spent money with press box. I wish literally every human being walking the street came in here and said, here's some money for press box. But it really is almost an impossible ask. And I don't know if you've heard, they've got some other issues down there. Just one or two. This organically connects Maryland to Baltimore. And that's great. But in the same way, it's so good that, like, you almost need to find a way to seize that phrase without it having to be tied to the University of Maryland. Like all these T-shirts that are out that have Derik Queen's name on it or the Maryland logo with the phrase are great for people here that specifically care about Maryland basketball. They're wonderful. but it becomes kind of a smaller pool, whereas the value of that phrase becomes even greater for just somebody, an average person walking down the street. Why do you have the confidence that you do? I'm from Baltimore, that's why. And I almost need like a plain black T-shirt that says that across it. Even if it was in red lettering, like that'd be fine. I'm going to buy one of those shirts, trust me, because I am a Maryland basketball fan. Like, I am in that category. But I'm just saying they need to figure out a way to do it where it doesn't connect to Maryland basketball in some way. Like, pay Derik Queen to say, dude, we love you, but the next shirt can't have your name on it. It just says I'm from Baltimore, that's why. The mayor needs to figure out a way, somebody involved in the city has to figure out a way to work this out, to have that be a quote that goes far beyond. What does it mean for the big picture? It's a great question. Certainly Villanova can't hire Kevin Willard today.
Well,
they can't. Not today. I get it. The Will Wade thing would say, but they can still have an agreement in place. Presumably with the portal opening today, which is so effing, it's just so beyond stupid. I can't put it into words. Like there are things.
There's like college football playoff when guys sitting out or like because they want to play quarterback somewhere else.
The college football playoff, right? No problem with people entering the portal. Like, this is when the period begins that you can start putting your name into the portal. Totally fine. But the idea that the portal is open for transfers while teams are trying to win a national championship is it's just, I'm sorry, batshit. It's so utterly nonsensical. You can't begin. It also, the idea that, well, you need to do this for the players themselves. Allegedly, they have to stay at the school that they're at through the end of the semester. So, why does it help that the portal is open today? How is that good for someone? But with that, you would think that Villanova would want to have a coach in place that they know is going to be their coach and can start doing those things. And maybe Kevin Willard's already told them, look, man, whenever this is over, I'm coming there. And I'm already starting to do work on that. I've already started recruiting my own guys to go there the way that Will Wade was recruiting his guys to go there. I don't know. The belief, our friend Jeff Ehrman from Inside MD Sports continues to say that, like, he is to understand. And I don't have any conflicting information. He continues to understand that what Kevin Willard is saying privately is that he's staying. But the caveat continues to be but I need in the contract concessions about what you're going to do for basketball. And without there being an athletic director, how does he get that? And if Villanova's willing to wait, and if they don't turn around today and say, we'll go hire, it's not going to be Ryan Odom because Ryan Odom's going to Virginia. I guess it's not going to be, I guess Chris Collins got a contract extension from Northwestern, but you can always leave. I mean, act like we haven't seen guys get new contracts and then leave anyway. Whoever it would be, I don't know who the.
Yeah, what's Chris Mack and Charleston's heating up already.
Well, that's more like everybody seems to think that he's back in play to go back to Xavier. With Sean Miller having left for Texas.
That's right. Yeah,
I would say Nico Medved, but it looks like he's going to Minnesota. Whoever it would be. Mick Cronin's name has come up a little bit. I don't know if he just dramatically, desperately wants to come back east. Or maybe thinks that the UCLA thing is too difficult now in the Big Ten because of all the travel, whatever it would be. The moral of the story being...
Just wait until he has to go to Omaha.
Right. That's a good point. Whoever that person would be, I would think...
Oh, Ben McCollum at Drake. Okay.
Well, he went to Iowa, didn't he?
Oh, he's already going to Iowa?
Didn't he take the Iowa job? I'm pretty sure that happened this weekend, that he got the Iowa job.
It's too much.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot happening. It's hard to... Your head will spin talking about all of it. that stuff still needs to sort itself out. It does, but
You're right, yeah.
it's nice to be thinking about something besides that for a minute. It's nice to just be thinking about basketball and pleasant things and not all of that. Like, it's just nice to have this and, at worst, pleasant distraction. More team that still has a chance to win a national championship. They do. They still have a chance. Johnny Holliday is going to join us in a couple of minutes. His call was spectacular. It really was. I mean, it sounded so good. We'll play it when we come back in. Josh Pastner has been part of the Fast Break crew all weekend for the CBS Turner conglomerate. I don't even know what you say. Who is he working for? March Madness?
Yeah, he's working for March Madness.
Sure,
Mr.
he's
March
working
Madness.
for March Madness. Former Georgia Tech and Memphis coach will join us. And Jay Bilas from ESPN. We'll check in with him as well this morning, get his thoughts on Derik Queen and Maryland's chances moving forward. All that coming up. If you saw me tweet last night that Cooper Rush is going to join the show, we're going to do that tomorrow. Cooper Rush
We
will
told
join
Cooper
us.
Rush, Derik Queen hit a shot, and
Yeah,
he was
so
like,
it's just
I
the way that it goes.
understand. Yeah.
Cooper Rush joins the show tomorrow, new Ravens quarterback, and we will look forward to that. But hoops all morning as we are. Today's a good day. It's a really, really good day here on Glenn Clark Radio.
March is a slam dunk at Live Casino. Catch all the basketball action and more at Sports and Social. Enter our $80,000 Dolce & Gabbana giveaway on March 28th. And catch the Baltimore baseball jersey giveaway March 31st. Take your shot at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in Maryland. But don't worry, protection is within arm's reach. Protect your health with this year's COVID-19 and flu shots. It's safe and convenient to get them both at the same time. Flex your protection. For more information, visit health.maryland.gov/vaccines.
This message paid for by the Maryland Department of Health.
Want to improve your golf game or learn to play for the first time? The Baltimore Golf Academy has fun, instructional programs for the beginner golfer to everyday players. The Baltimore Golf Academy can take your game to the next level. Enroll today at BaltimoreGolfAcademy.com.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
We're into spring sports season at the high school level, lacrosse, baseball, softball, everything you need to know. You can find out scores, schedules, everything, all the updates. CountySports.zone. That's CountySports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Well, here's how it sounded last night on the radio as Derik Queen hit the game winner.
On the far side, Reese out high with Rice out high. The Terps are down by 1. And Gillespie looks to inbound. There it goes to Queen. Queen will drive in against Morton. Queen with a shot off the glass. Got it! And the Terrapins have won it at the buzzer on a shot. Oh my goodness! By Derik Queen, 72-71, and we're heading to San Francisco. It's about time. Wow! How about that?
It's about time indeed. I get chills. You all know how much this man means to me in my life, and I felt so good for him having a moment like that. Unfortunately, they've been fewer and further between over the last couple of decades, and that made it all the more special. Joining us now, play-by-play voice of the University of Maryland. He is our friend and the great Johnny Holliday, and he's back with us this morning on GCR. Johnny, it's Glenn. That was something, huh? That was a whole lot of fun last night.
Yeah, I think it really was, Glenn. You know, I'm thinking like everybody else probably in the last couple of seconds, oh, no, not another one.
Right.
Are we going to lose another game with seconds to go? These guys have been through, as you know, so much. You know, when you lose 4 of them out of 8 losses on the last possession, that's heartbreaking. And I'm thinking to myself, can these guys go through another loss like this to come so close to getting to the Sweet 16? It was absolutely incredible. And if you could have seen the reception back at the hotel, we got in the bus and we came back, and the lobby full of Maryland people. The band was playing. The cheerleaders were there. Testudo was there. The atmosphere is almost undescribable with how happy everybody was for this team. It's been marvelous so far. Now it's going to be even tougher against the number 1 seed. But hey, when you get this far, they're all good.
Well, and
so
Johnny, this is a good team.
You're playing with house money now.
Yeah, well, you play with house money, but this Maryland is really good. Like, there's a legitimate chance of going and beating Florida. We'll get to that. Johnny, I wonder if I could, because it's easy for people to be cynical about, you know, the changes in the sport and how college athletics are different. And there is something to me about this group, but particularly Juju, who hits those big free throws late, and everything that he's been through as a 4-year guy in this program, the likes of which we might not see a lot more of in the future. And then a local kid, Derik Queen, and how kind of personal it seems like it is for him. It'd been cool if anybody had hit that shot. But those 2 guys contributing the way that they did an emotional win like this, I think even the most cynical of sports fan or college sports follower would have to have that warm their heart last night.
How do you think the people of Baltimore and the kids that went to St. Francis or go to St. Francis now are celebrating this morning? 2 guys. Julian went there. Derik went there, representing Baltimore, and both guys speaking out as proud as they could last night about, you know, we're Baltimore guys. We're a little there's something, we have a little cutting edge on us.
Mm-hmm.
We're a little bit different. We fight. We focus, and we never give up. And it was, you know, I was almost at a loss for words last night, because Chris Nockey and I both thought that the ball would end up in the hands of Gillespie or Rice, both guys outstanding shooters from the outside. You're going to drive to the rim, you're going to get fouled, and both guys shooting over 80%, hit the free throws, and you win the game. No. Kevin Willard draws it up, and Derik in the timeout huddle says, hey, I want the ball. The coach said, who wants the ball? And the freshman of all the people said, I want the basketball. And everybody looked at him and said, yeah, okay. Let's go.
Right, go win it then.
Glenn, can you imagine the pressure on a young kid like that? He told us after the game he has never hit a game-winning shot at the buzzer. Never. In when he was playing at St. Francis, down in Florida, at Montverde. Never. And that's an incredible thing for a young guy to do something like that. And back at the hotel last night, people were having dinner, and in the lobby and the lounge, and the players were roaming around talking with people and getting pictures taken. And there's Derik Queen. No big deal. Hey, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to win basketball games, make shots, and glad I got the ball and glad I made it. Yeah. And that was not an easy shot he made last night.
No.
Going to his left, falling away off the glass. And he only got You only got 3.6 seconds to get it in, get a touch, a dribble, and a shot. That's pretty tough to do.
It's incredibly tough to do. It was very high-level stuff. Johnny Holliday is with us this morning on GCR. Johnny, I know that when you said it's about time, you were referencing the fact that, as you pointed out, there have been 4 buzzer beaters that have gone the other way in this calendar year alone. But in a way, it felt almost more pathetic than that. Like that it's also a reflection of how snake-bitten this program has been for some time, beyond just 4 buzzer beaters this year. That it is about time. That this is what Maryland basketball is supposed to be, winning big games in March and making runs in the NCAA tournament. Those words felt even bigger to me than just the 4 buzzer beaters that have gone the wrong way this season.
You know something? This could be a magical year for this basketball team. When Kevin Willard hit the transfer portal, he knew that he had to get shooters. We didn't have shooters last year. So he brings in Gillespie. He brings in Rodney Rice. He brings in Selton Miguel. Then you blend in Juju, the only big, really veteran guy you mentioned it stayed 4 years, and you don't find that very often. Hardly anybody's going to be dedicated to one school because of the money. But Julian Reese is different. Derik Queen, you can't blame him for next year going to the big lights of the NBA. It'd be nice if he stayed another year and shocked everybody.
Right.
But I doubt that. Yeah. I doubt that's going to happen. But these guys together have just been absolutely incredible. They can all shoot. Any night, somebody can be the leading scorer. Any night, somebody can hit a game-winning shot among the starting 5. And I think Kevin Willard sometimes doesn't get the recognition, the plaudits that he should be getting for putting together a team like this. And to be able – and I just got a feeling that I think back to 2011 when we played down at Florida and Gary Williams got his 300th win. And we beat the number 1 ranked team in the country, Florida. Gave them their first loss of the year. They'd just been named number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember, Travis Garrison hit that shot with 18 seconds to play to win it. And that's the only points he scored all year.
Right.
I mean, all game in that game. And it was just destined to be. And I just got a feeling that something's going to happen on Thursday night, something good for these guys, and boy, do they deserve it.
Johnny, what does it mean to you? I don't want to be, because to your point, there's still a lot that can happen this season, and as I've remind you a million times, I'm never putting you out the pasture. I think you're living for another 100 years and calling Maryland basketball, because it's all I've ever known in my life, and there's never going to be a day where I want to hear anything other than Johnny Holliday's voice describing basketball games to me. But what does it mean to you to have a year like this? Given, I'm not trying to pile on anything, because there's way more programs that are like this than there are programs that win national championships every year. But what does it mean to you to have this season, to have a moment like that, all of those things, at this place in your career?
It was interesting, Glenn, when I came back to the hotel, and I get a little bit uncomfortable and people start cheering and waving and shaking hands and taking pictures. And I had this ask.
And by the way, that's just when I see Johnny that I'm doing all of those things. That's just me.
It was really interesting because I've been doing this a lot of years. This is my 46th year. So I've seen just about everything, every particular scenario, including the Nicholas, buzzer beater in 2003 to get us out of Nashville. But I think when you do something like I do, I've never worked a day in my life, to be honest with you. You're doing a kid's game. You're broadcasting football. You're broadcasting basketball. You're broadcasting baseball. You're just doing something that probably everybody on the other side would love to be doing. I'm not at a desk 8 hours a day. Mm-hmm. I'm not in a pressure-packed job like so many other people are. And it's so gratifying to me to be able to still do this for all these years. And everybody says, and it's natural, well, when are you gonna retire? I said, why?
Right.
Why should I?
Right.
If I can still do the games the way I like to do the games, and I think the longer you go, the better anybody gets in any job. And I love it as much today as I did back in 1979 when I did my first game for Coach Lefty Driesell, now in the Hall of Fame, and then to work with Gary Williams. And to see kids succeed and to go on to the next level or be successful in business like so many of these guys are, that just makes it all worthwhile. And I love it as much as I always have. I hope I'm with Maryland for a long, long time. You know it's going to come to an end someday, but I'm not looking at that mirror yet.
And Johnny,
go
ahead.
And Maryland says to me, don't surprise us by saying you've done your last game. I said, I'm not going to do that. No, I love it. I love doing football. I love doing basketball. It's not work for me. And I'm just so happy for the kids and for the coaches for what they've done and to represent this university. And as you mentioned, there's been a lot of ups and downs, a lot of question marks, and I'm still doing it.
And Johnny, that's the point. The point to me is, and I obviously not at your level, but I do plenty of this myself. I still enjoy I'm doing Loyola lacrosse this season. It's been tough. They're 0-8, right? But I still am excited to go over and do a game because, to your point, it's great work. Yeah. This is what I get to do. They're gonna pay me a check for going over to call a game. I'm grateful for it. But I can't lie. When you get to have those special moments and those special feelings, there's something that goes along with that. And I got to imagine that this year has been that for you. That it's just been as much as I've enjoyed it every year. There's something more about it when you get a year like this.
Well, and you mentioned Loyola. I've got some connections there. One of my son-in-laws, Dr. Steve Smaldor, is a Loyola graduate. One of my grandsons, Dr. Nicholas Raleigh, went to Loyola, went to Maryland Medical School. He's a second-year resident at Inova Fairfax in surgery. And my granddaughter, Maggie McCarthy, will be a freshman there next year.
That's awesome.
That's a very, very special place. So I did some games for home team sports involving, Loyola, and they would play Mount St. Mary's and so forth. I know exactly what you mean. And when the guys lose and when they've lost the way they've lost some games this year, it's devastating. And you feel this. I feel the same way that they do. I have that empty feeling in my stomach. And I say, these kids are playing their butts off. And it's just not fair sometimes when they lose games, close games, and then you have controversy and all sort of people talking about a program. And all they're trying to do is play a game of basketball. It's pretty tough. And I think they should all be complimented, especially for being able to focus out here with what's been going on back there. And it's even extra special in that case.
No question about it. No question about it. All right, so you're feeling good. You're feeling like this. Oh, yeah. This Friday. Look, Florida's really good. There's no debate about it. They're really good. They were probably the best team in the country coming into this tournament. But as we've seen time and time again, Maryland still hasn't lost a game by more than 6 points this season. It's almost absurd. That hadn't happened in a regular season at Maryland since 1974. I have every reason to believe they're going to be right there with Florida on Thursday and have an opportunity to keep this thing going.
Well, I think they all understand, too, when you get to the NCAA tournament, it's one and done, so you've got to play your best. And there's so many upsets. But if you look at the Sweet 16 bracket, the Big Ten is represented quite well. That just shows how tough a conference it is. Michigan State's there, Michigan is there, Maryland's there, and anything can happen. And I think certainly they're underdogs, I think by maybe 5 points or 6 points this morning, but things can change. And I think when you get to a place like San Francisco and you get to the Sweet 16 and people have watched this game last night, there's going to be a lot of Maryland fans from the Bay Area pulling for this team to knock off the team from Florida. It's been done before. It'll be done again, and let's hope it happens again on Thursday.
I know it's a special place for you, too, right? This is a pretty cool way for this to go.
I was there 5 years. I was there 5 years before I came to D.C., and, Rick Barry and I did the Cal basketball games on television, and I did the Giants pregame show on TV, and the Oakland Raiders PA announcing, the Warriors PA announcing, the Beatles and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it. It's like a homecoming for me.
Just those casual things. Just hanging out with your best friend Rick Barry and the Beatles. Just, those really casual things that Johnny Holliday can bring up in conversation that none of the rest of us can. Just the way that it works. Johnny, I truly hope, first of all, the call was spectacular. I mean, it is as good a call as, and you've had a lot of great ones, but that was as good as any call that you've had in your entire career, my friend. And I love
there was a lump in my throat too, Glenn. I felt so happy for these guys, and it was all you could do to not shed a tear, and choke up when you see how they were celebrating, and just everybody jumping on top of Queen. And we were talking on the post game with Rodney Rice, and all of a sudden they came to get him because all the guys were gathered around Willard on television, and they wanted Rice in there too, the entire starting five. So we let him go early, and that's good to see. I mean, they're all so tight. They're all so good together, and nothing to lose on Thursday.
Johnny, when it's all done, you got to come back and hang out with us in the studio again. It's been too long.
I want to go to that little place you took me to.
Yeah, we're definitely doing that. That's happening, my friend. I love you. I always appreciate you. Thank you for making time for us this morning, and may this train keep on rolling for another couple of weekends. All right.
Okay, Glenn. Thank you so much, and all the best, buddy.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you when I get back.
Sounds good, pal. Johnny Holliday. I get emotional. Because Johnny Holliday got to do that last night. And Johnny Holliday is the best of us. The best of us. I mean it. Like when I got to hear the call, it hit me. I felt something. And it sounded phenomenal. It really was vintage Johnny Holliday. So yeah, it makes me emotional. And it's personal because Johnny Holliday has been as important to me as almost anyone in my career. But damn, that was cool. And I am so glad that he gets to have that. We all got to have it, but Johnny Holliday got to call it and got to remind everybody he's Johnny Holliday in that moment. Love that guy. I want to complain about something because it's what I do, but I got nothing to complain about. I mean, there's certain things that I would like if lacrosse were 0-8. I would like that. I would like if Gunnar Henderson was going to be available for opening day. There's
Felix Bautista will.
That's true. He's on the roster. He'll be there on Thursday. I just realized that I haven't even gotten tickets for Monday yet. Like, I'm so Maryland basketball centric right now that I haven't even thought about, like, hey, there's a baseball game in Baltimore 1 week from today that you're going to want to be at. And I assume that I'm going to be fine in that department and that
what, you'll be taken care of? And
No, I pay money. No one gives me opening day tickets anymore. When they were bad.
Well, as in
they were bad.
They'll be made available to you.
I believe that I have like alternative paths to get them. But I think I have to make sure I explore those alternative paths now and not have it strike me on Monday morning that I was so drunk on basketball for a couple of weeks that I forgot that there was a baseball game coming up.
Yeah, I bet at worst, I bet it strikes you Sunday morning,
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. If they're playing a late Saturday night Elite 8 game, it might not.
Oh, you're saying
if Maryland punches their ticket to the Final Four, might not be the first thing on my mind. God, good times. I thought it was overall a really good weekend. It's not just that Maryland-Colorado State was a really good game with a phenomenal ending. I thought overall it was a good weekend of basketball. I get it. Like
you didn't have a 15 seed.
Yeah, I like all that stuff, and I like buzzer beaters as much as anybody else, but I also just like good basketball, and I did think I bring up the Wisconsin-BYU thing. The way that Gonzaga battled back, like, trust me, I was essing bricks as someone who picked Houston to win the title. Like, I was losing it, but there was good, really good basketball. I know our buddy Jeremy Conn is going to join us later. He actually prefers it this way. Like, give me all the best teams. I don't want all the Cinderellas.
They say good games in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. That's my viewing of the NCAA tournament, but it's okay. You're not going to get that every year. It's all right. By the way, you need the years like this so that when it happens again next year, it can be more meaningful. It's got to be a reminder. Like, if it's just every year and constant, then it isn't special. It's okay to have a year like this every now and then. Remember, there was a reason why we all were so emotional about a horse winning the Triple Crown, because, like, it doesn't happen. And I'm not saying that I want to go 33 years without there being a 15/2 or something like that, but, like, come on, man. It's okay if for 1 year the tournament's like this. And I did think there was some good basketball. I thought there was some bad basketball, too. I thought there was some... I brought up the Tanjay thing. Like, that was an unwatchable possession. Just, we have no other... And there were a few of those as the weekend went on. Oregon fought like hell to get back into a game last night and then had some really bad possessions down the stretch. Really bad. It happens. It's an NCAA tournament. Overall, I've greatly enjoyed my weekend of basketball viewing. It was fruitful. I'm Arkansas St. John's was a really good game. And it's easy for us to question Rick Pitino and having what's-his-face off the floor. Like
R.J. Lewis.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. I don't know why I blanked on his
Big
name.
East Player of the Year. Come on.
I got other things going on today. Other names that are off the top of my head. Yeah, having R.J. Lewis off the floor, very confusing. But I'll tell you, what was good about that game? I was at the I was in between. I had three events. I had a long day of work on Saturday. Sure. I had the Annapolis Running Festival in the morning. I had Loyola Lafayette, and then I had Stevenson Salisbury. And in between Loyola Lafayette, Stevenson Salisbury, I went to the gym, and that's where I was watching the game. And the game was so good that it kept me on the elliptical for like an extra 30 minutes. Like, I had finished my workout, and then I just said, I'm going to go right ahead. So thank you for that. That was beneficial. But that was a great game. They were really good games this weekend. And obviously Maryland won, and that's the part that matters.
So that's the other thing then, I guess, is that there are only 4 conferences being represented in the Sweet 16 for the first time.
For what it's worth, there's basically only 4 conferences. You kind of end the sentence at that. I mean, that's with all of the Pac-12.
There's really only 3, I guess.
And what do you mean?
Because Duke's the one ACC team.
Yeah, Duke's the one ACC
4
team.
from the Big 10, Big 12, and 7 SEC.
And do I want that? No, but at the same time, like, we're gonna have to make peace with that. This is what it is. Will that change in the revenue share era? Probably not. If anything, like, the ACC is going to die, so I mean, I guess there'd still be one team from the ACC Big East conglomeration that might exist in the future. We're going to have to get used to this. It's what it is. I don't think it's going to be like this every year. I've seen a lot of people, like a lot of the doomsday. This is what happens now. All the players at lower schools are going to get bought up, and they'll never have a chance to break through. And they spare me.
Colorado State was 3 seconds away.
And lots of teams were in position, like, were leading in the second half. They were still plenty of, like, I'm about to do the old man thing. When I was, when teachers were sneaking TVs in so I could watch NCAA tournament games when I was in middle school, the 1 seeds beat the 16 seeds by 50 points. Because they were senior-laden teams of NBA players that were playing against bricklayers. Not like, like literal bricklayers, not just guys that were missing basketball shots.
Got it.
They were winning 105-62. We don't see that even this year. So spare me the doomsday. The NCAA tournament will never be like it was. Stop it. There were teams that had chances that just came up a little bit short. The flip side argument is the argument of, with all of these teams being, transfer portal guys, that they're still going to have communication problems. And there's still going to be things, they're going to make mistakes in pressure moments. That's going to happen moving forward. This is 1 year. We're trying to make grand statements about 1 year. College basketball has changed, no question about it. The idea that it'll never be anything but this, stop. Spare me. For God's sakes. All right, we come back in. Josh Pastner, he had a busy weekend. I can't believe it was like 12 hours of hoops every day. I've done a lot of broadcasting in my life. I've never done anything like that. Although, again, it's hoops. It's not real work. But we'll talk to Josh Pastner about Maryland and about the 16 teams that are left and Florida and the whole thing when we come back in. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Glenn Clark and I sit down for a Q&A with Orioles owner David Rubenstein, discussing what he learned from his first year as owner, his goals both on and off the field, and his involvement in baseball decisions. Also inside, Brooks DeBose profiles new Oriole Tyler O'Neill, and we meet college lacrosse players from around the state. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores. Or you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps.
Need a trophy or award that's as unique as the achievement? Look no further than Crown Trophy. With locations in Owings Mills and Gaithersburg, they specialize in custom trophies, plaques, and medals for any occasion. From sports and academic awards to employee recognition and corporate gifts, visit crowntrophy.com today and let them help you create a lasting memory for your school, team, or business. Crown Trophy is a proud supporter of the Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association. crowntrophy.com.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
Back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Monday edition of the program, winding down hour number 1 of the show. I promise this week we will talk Orioles. Like, I know that opening day is Thursday. I promise that will happen. But, you know, in the meantime, this. So that's what we're dealing with, and that's the way that I want it to be. Like, may this forever be a problem that we have, is that we're so invested in Maryland basketball that, like, it bleeds right into the start of Orioles season. May that be the case eternally, that the two things get conflated. Sweet 16 Thursday night, Maryland, Florida. It's the early game, which is pleasant. Out in San Francisco. I don't know why it's the early game. You would think that it would be actually the more, sexy of the two matchups, but it's the early matchup, 7:39 on Thursday night on TBS and True TV for Maryland and Florida with the great Kevin Harlan will be on the call, which adds all to that. I spent a lot of time this weekend watching the fast break option on the March Madness app. So hanging out with Randolph Childress and Tony Delk and Jared Greenberg and our next guest. It's good to have him back on the program after he's been working like 1,000 hours over the course of the last week. He is former Memphis coach, Georgia Tech coach Josh Pastner, and he is back with us now here on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn in Baltimore, where life is extraordinarily good. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning. We really appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed the coverage with the app coverage. Did you enjoy watching us on there?
I did enjoy. Can I nitpick something? I don't want you guys to. I don't want you guys to wear suits. You're four guys hanging out watching basketball. I want you to wear quarter zips or something like that, right? Like, I know this is going to sound dumb, but I want you guys – I like the idea of it just being a loose hangout. That's what I'm looking for.
You know what's interesting? They didn't want us to wear ties and to have more of the laid-back, loose look. I'm such a tie guy. I'm always like, man, I really want to wear a tie. When I was doing NBC this year, they wanted the other guys wanted to go tie-less, and I was like, no, I'm wearing a tie, and so – because they made us wear, they say, well, if one's wearing a tie, everyone's got to wear a tie.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Come on, Josh, don't wear a tie. So I'm more of a tie guy, and if I was coaching again, I would wear a shirt and tie, just so you know that. But anyway,
you'd be the only one these days. It's you. Well, you and Kevin Willard.
And Callan.
That being said, but that being said, let me say this: the games. Let me talk on two things.
Mm-hmm.
One is before I get to the Maryland game.
Yep.
One is. It's top heavy, this tournament. I've said it from the very beginning. This tournament was going to be top heavy. The top 8 seeds, I felt 4 of the 8 are going to be in the Final Four. And you look into the tournament, into the weekend right now, or to the Sweet 16, should I say, the biggest Cinderella story is Arkansas, who's got one of the highest NIL payroll. So
right.
It's just the power conferences, the power teams. You might say, why is that? Because years ago, the mid-major teams would be playing guys who are juniors and seniors who are 22, 23, and they would beat these other teams who were young, who were older, who were from the power conferences, but were maybe younger. But because now these mid-major teams, when 1 year, if they're a freshman and they have a halfway decent season, they're going to the portal to go up a level to get more money. And so that's the change of why you see what it is today. Secondly, the best game of the tournament to this point was the Maryland-Colorado State game. It was an incredible game, back and forth. I thought, the Colorado State coming down called timeout. Maryland was in man-to-man. Maryland came out of the timeout and ran zone, and it allowed them to get that cross-court pass to hit the 3, or the across the lane line there to hit the 3. And then they came down. I didn't know if Kevin was going to call timeout. They called timeout. They got it on the side there, Kevin Willard, the coach of Maryland. And then they ran kind of the America plays on the side. When they say America's played, it was a guy goes through like a gate, like 2 guys go through. And then Queen comes to the top, and it was a great play call. They got it to him, driving to his left with the shooter in the corner, and he hit a really tough shot with great defense on him, but it was better offense. And I don't think it was travel. I know they were talking about the 3 steps, but he gathered. I didn't in real life, in the quickness of the action. There was no way there was travel was going to be called, and it was an incredible shot, incredible game, and best game of the tournament to this point.
No question about all of that, by the way. Coach, if I could follow up on that by saying there would be probably a Maryland fan who would say, okay, after the excitement of that dies down, should we have needed to have to get a miraculous buzzer beater in order to beat Colorado State? And I think what's missed in that is how good and how well coached Colorado State is, and how they had been, arguably the hottest team in the country coming into this tournament.
Well, Colorado State's really good. They got the kid, Nee Clifford, who didn't have a great game yesterday, but he's really good. Colorado State is a high level team. They were very good. They're very well coached. In fact, you're going to see that coach, Nico Medved.
Yeah.
I expect him to be the next coach at Minnesota.
Yep.
I mean, that's only just a matter of time before that happens. But this team, the way they play offense, the way they space the floor, the way they move without the basketball, they're a hard matchup. There's no doubt about that. But the bottom line is Maryland won. I think Maryland's got some of the best starting 5. I know they call it the Crab 5, but it's the best starting 5 maybe of anyone remaining in the Sweet 16. I mean, as you turn from top to bottom. And now, can they get it done with some? They're going to have some at some point some help from the bench as well too. But I thought it was an interesting. What's the best word to use it? An interesting dilemma because of the press conference with Kevin Willard earlier in the tournament in regards to his athletic director. About the contract. Did he sign it, not sign it? He obviously talked about about what happened in New York over the Christmas time period. It was very interesting on that. And, they go up to the Sweet 16. Not everyone has enough, I would say, the courage to go out and say what he was saying. You know what I'm saying about your boss and some things about the program. And he called out and he backed it up with going to the Sweet 16.
Let's talk about that, Coach, because it is we haven't seen a whole lot of this. And I know a lot of people are also bringing up how open Will Wade was about everything that had been going on. Is this just the change in college basketball? Because the easy question a lot of us had was, will this be a distraction that overwhelms this team? And clearly, to this point, it hasn't been. Is this just the new way of handling things? We saw Derik Queen last night. Somebody asked him, hey, what makes Kevin Willard a coach that you guys want to listen to? And he just flat out said, well, he pays us the money.
He pays us. Pays us the money. No, this is the deal. This is, I think, look, I think it's refreshing with Will Wade that he was transparent about it, that he said he was going to Carolina or North Carolina State, excuse me. I think it was refreshing that he said, hey, he told the players, the players said, come with me for 1 year and I'll bring you to an ACC school, after the year's done. I think it was, it was transparent on what Kevin said. I'm all for transparency. I wish everyone's NIL contract was transparent because coaches' contracts, unless maybe you're at a private school, are transparent. So the more transparency, I think the better for everybody. I think the fans would appreciate it. I think how much guys are making. And then when there's transparency, it's just easier for everybody. And it's a different world. I also think it's different now that you can hold where maybe 5 years ago you couldn't say, a media member or even a coach could criticize a college student athlete. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because they weren't professionals. If they had a bad performance, they weren't playing well, that was kind of off limit. Now, because of the payments they're getting paid, you can do that now. Media member, again, not personal attacks but more about their performance or play. It's open, and it's an opportunity that you can criticize someone's lack of performance or if they're not playing well, you can call them out on it now, where that was probably off limits when you're dealing without the pay to play situation where it is now, because it's more professionalized than it ever was before.
So is the end of the distraction era altogether then, Coach? Like, is there anything at this point that can be? Like, are we just dealing with, 18, 19, 20-year-old professionals that understand, hey, this is all just part of the business, that we just go play basketball?
They all have agents. You're dealing with agents. It's a business. It's very business-related situation. And I think the only way to kind of get it a little bit controlled will be two ways. Either the Senate or Congress is going to have to pass laws, an antitrust law that will cover all 50 states and will protect the NCAA from getting sued. Either that has to happen, or you're going to have to make them employees,
right?
And go through like the rules and laws of a union or a collective bargaining agreement and whatever, all those type of things that go with that. Those are the only two ways. Otherwise, it's going to continue to be like this every single year until one of those two things happen. Anything else, and when people are trying to give solutions and other ways, it won't work unless it's one of those two ways I just mentioned.
Josh Pastner with us here on GCR. Florida is next. They are unbelievably good. Mentioned Colorado State being one of the hottest teams coming into the tournament. Florida was probably the hottest team coming into the tournament, given who they had to play in order to win the SEC. I know how deep they are. I know how dizzying their fast break can be. Like, they push and it comes at you in a blur. Maryland is not deep, and I've a couple times last week against Michigan, even last night a little bit, I wondered if it was impacting them legs-wise. They get a few days now to regroup. They're not traveling back. They're staying out west and going right from Seattle to San Francisco. Can they handle a team? Can they be there, go toe-to-toe with a team as deep and as fast as Florida is.
Yeah, I think they can go toe-to-toe because the media timeouts are really long in the NCAA tournament. I think you have 20-minute half times, not 15-minute half times. There's the first called timeout in each half, the first and second half goes to a media timeout, which is almost 3 minutes in length. So there's so much rest. You can win just going on 5 guys. Now, as long as you stay out of foul trouble and everything else, you're fine. So I don't see any issue of anyone someone getting worn down in the NCAA tournament because of the length of timeouts, the amount of rest you get in the timeouts, plus a 20-minute halftime. So some of the rules of rest is different than it is in the regular season. But Florida is Florida's good enough to win the national championship. They are loaded. They're deep. They've got an elite guard in Walter Clayton Jr., and I think they're the hottest team in the country right now going into this tournament.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And Walter Clayton is outstanding. Does it help Maryland to get something like this out of the way? Like, do they play looser because they had to go through something like this on Thursday?
No, I don't think they play looser. I just think the favorite's going to be Florida, so Maryland's going to be the underdog. I mean, there's no doubt about that going in. Maryland had some tough losses before this buzzer beater, where some buzzer shots went against them.
Yeah.
So they kind of got that, at the right time, and the right one went in for them. But no, the pressure is going to be more on Florida more so than Maryland, and I think it's going to be a great game, and I just think it's going to be, it's going to be more about, as you mentioned, about the way, because Florida's going to play fast and try to wear out Maryland. Maryland's got to utilize the rest that they get from as I mentioned, with the timeouts, the halftime, and then just Coach Willard call some other timeouts along the way, just to continue to ride those top 5 guys, because that's going to be their key to win. I mean, their 5 matches up with Florida's starting 5. It's just really when you get into the bench, Florida has the advantage of the depth over Maryland.
Yeah, they've got 5 guys off the bench that all average double-digit minutes this season. They play dudes, and that is just not the way that it's going to be for Maryland whatsoever. Coach, before I let you go, if I could, obviously the unfortunate part about last night is we see the elbow in the first half that goes not just uncalled, but not reviewed. And we live now in an era where we'll review the discrepancy of 1/10 of a second on the clock, and we'll stop a game for 5 minutes to change 1/10 of a second on the clock. We will review whether something was a three-pointer 5 to 10 minutes after it occurred. How do we not, in this era where everybody in the country saw it, it was being shared and disseminated, how is it possible that we don't have a mechanism for making sure we get something that egregious fixed in that moment?
Well, look, I think there's a lot of things that and I'll just speak more in general. I think the number one thing, more so than with the play that you're talking about, I think the biggest thing with college basketball is the reviews late in the game, that the length of the game that's taking, or the stoppage of the flow of the game, because of trying to check whether it's out of bounds, it's mostly about out of bounds calls. I think they're going to move, my personal opinion, in the NIT, they're doing an experimental rule, and I called a game earlier last week, and I liked it, that they had a coach's challenge. And it was you can use in the last 2 minutes of the regulation, or at the end of 2 minutes of any overtime. And if you had a timeout and you challenged it and you lost the challenge, you lose your timeout. If you have no timeouts and you challenge it and you lose the challenge, you get a technical foul assessed against you. So, and that really sped the game up. There was rarely any reviews. If a referee makes a call, that's what they went with. The NBA looked at that as well too, and you look at it, like 98% of the calls made late in the game were correct. And so there are going to be some tough calls that are not going to be correct. If I'm a coach, I would like for it to continue to always be reviewed. I love that they can go to the monitor to double check everything to be right. As a fan and in the media, I would tell you that it's too long. They need to get the coach's challenge or whatever it may be to speed the game up and not interrupt the flow of the game. I think that is an important part. So wearing 2 different hats, I could look at it from 2 different perspectives. And in regarding the play you mentioned with the elbow, technically yes, how do they fix that? But they should have gone back at the monitor at that time and looked at it. They didn't. But these are all things that will be discussed, I'm sure, in the off season. But I can tell fans it doesn't happen so fast in college athletics to get rules implemented. It takes a little bit of time. There's got to be people's got to vote on it. And, it's different than the NBA, because in the NBA, there's only 30 teams and you're dealing with much less stuff as in terms of, because of less teams, less players, you have a home office in New York. The NCAA, it's made up of so many different conferences, and it's all different levels. So that's what you got to deal with.
Coach, are you guys back in action Thursday, Friday night?
Say that one more time.
Are you guys back in action this week?
No, this is it. No, because
okay,
with only being because it's really like what I was doing was really like fast break and like the red zone with the NFL, and you're moving around so many games now with only. I wish we were doing it Thursday, Friday, but now with only 2 games each night. It's really not that much not much going on in that, or really 4 games each night, but it's not that much going on after that.
Yeah. I loved the stuff with John Wall on Friday night. I thought that was great. I really did enjoy all 4 days of hanging out with you guys, and it's the second straight year that I've enjoyed doing that. So I appreciate you taking the time for us this morning. Thank you so much, and let's talk again real soon. All right.
Yep. Thanks for hanging with us, and I appreciate it. And good luck to the Maryland Terps upcoming on this upcoming week. Should be some great basketball this whole weekend.
No doubt about it. Thank you, Coach. Coach Josh Pastner with us this morning here on GCR. By the way, it is official that Nico Medved is headed to Minnesota, which was again, it's funny because we talk about like all distractions surrounding Maryland, but like clearly the Colorado State kids knew that the same way the rest of us did. And yet, there they were, going toe-to-toe, and had it not been for a miraculous shot, they would have been headed to the Sweet 16 themselves. It's a different world. And that storyline and the way that it might impact the team, definitely the reminder of what happened to Seton Hall, but that Seton Hall team was not nearly as good the year that Kevin Willard was leaving. And I do think that played a significant role in why they got pummeled in the first round that year. As much as the distraction of Kevin Willard departing. Nico Medved officially headed to Minnesota this morning after a tremendous job. And by the way, he was, as I said before, he was in the mix when Kevin Willard got the Maryland job. And a lot of us at the time when we heard that, we were like, who? Like, Nico Med? Who is that? What do you mean? For the Maryland job? It turns out the guy's a damn good coach. Like a damn good coach. And pretty easy hire for Minnesota. A coup, really, as he's a Minnesota alum on top of everything else. So as the coaching carousel continues to turn this morning. The next question is, will Villanova hire a coach, or are they waiting for someone in particular? I don't know. I don't have that answer. All we can worry about here is Maryland and moving on to face Florida. If you haven't picked up this print issue of Press Box yet, make sure you do that today. David Rubenstein's on the cover, owner of the Orioles. He sat down for a lengthy Q&A with myself and Stan the Fan Charles. You can pick it up for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. Read the entire issue. Lots of college lacrosse in there as well by going to PressBoxOnline.com. David Rubenstein on the cover of the new print issue of Press Box, and we'll have another baseball-themed issue of Press Box coming here in just a couple of weeks. Looking forward to sharing that with you. From Dan. Dan says, Glenn, are you going to talk about the fact that, yeah, that's fair. Are you going to talk about the fact that Kevin Willard had a foul to give and didn't use it? And how much criticism does he deserve for that? Of course, you're talking about, obviously, the final possession for Colorado State that led to the Jalen Lake 3. And not that you can coach this way, but there's a timestamp on this. My buddy Aaron Oster sent a tweet about the foul, and I said, I understand, and it's the quote-unquote right thing to do. But at the same time, I kind of just wanted to get that possession over with, whatever the result would be, as soon as possible. And yes, that's me speaking about the fact that Maryland's lost now 4 times at the buzzer when they didn't have the opportunity to retort. But it's not football. It's not, hey, you better have the ball in your hands. You're better off just giving up a score and getting the ball back because the rules are beneficial to offense. It's not quite that, but it's a sort of similar feeling to that. We have traditionally tried to give fouls so that you run down as much time as you possibly can and force a team to have to speed up through their own final possession. That's the thought process. And I get it. Maryland had one more, but they only had one more foul to give. So let's say they give that foul with 10 to 12 seconds left. That's still 10 to 12 seconds that a team has to run a set and get a really good look. And it might be the difference in you then having 4 seconds left to go the other way and do what you ultimately did. So it's easy to second guess. 1, it doesn't matter because it worked out. But 2, in that moment, and this isn't convenient. You can go back and check the Twitter. I thought it was just better to get through it, and if you give up points, give yourself some time to go try to change that at the end. I'll ask our next guest about this. Of course, it is Colin. Oh, all right then. Just as soon as I was ready. That moment. Jay Bilas is about to join us. And he was on hold, and I was ready to go to him, and I was setting it all up, and then Griffin looked down and saw that the call had dropped. And I was like, damn. It happens. It bees that way sometimes. Let's try again. Joining us now as we continue to celebrate here in Maryland today after a thrilling win last night. This man, of course, college basketball analyst for ESPN, and he's always been great to us over the years. It's a pleasure to welcome Jay Bilas back to the program this morning. Jay, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you. Thank you so much for taking the time for us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. A pretty good day in our neck of the woods, as you would imagine. This is irrelevant, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What did you think about the decision? Just because a caller just brought it up, what did you think about the decision of Kevin Willard not giving the last foul that he had to give there late in the game? In the moment, I get you're supposed to do that, but it really did feel like, hey, I would kind of rather them get through this possession. Whatever happens, happens. Give yourself some time on the other end if you needed to go win it, which is exactly how it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it both ways. You know, you could wait a little bit, run some time off the clock, and then foul and make them inbound it again. But then they're getting to run an inbounds play that they practice a lot.
Right.
So I don't know if anybody asked Kevin about it in the post-game press conference. I thought it was interesting. And, you know, it's kind of like the decision whether you foul when you're up 3 and when you do it. And in the NBA, they do it all the time. I mean, it's routine. In college, it depends on the coach. You know, Bill Self at Kansas never does it. He relies on his defense. Other coaches do it based upon the bad thing that happened to him the last time.
Sure.
You know, but, you know, reasonable minds can differ on all that. But I always love hearing the reasoning of why coaches decide to do something versus another. And there are other times when the coach tells them to do something and they don't do it. You know, that happens too.
Right. Yeah, they said it worked out accidentally. We definitely wanted to give the foul there. It didn't happen, but it worked out for you nonetheless. Jay, look, this was an awesome moment for Derik Queen, and there was some real joy involved. It was a great basketball game altogether. I don't know that Maryland played their best basketball last night, but this is the NCAA tournament. That happens sometimes, and I think what people are missing here is that, like, Colorado State's really good and is one of the hottest teams in the country. I don't think there's any shame at all that Maryland needed a last-second buzzer beater in order to beat that team.
Heck no. And that happens all the time in the NCAA tournament. You know, any time of the year. I mean, I think Maryland would have been happy with that game if it were in College Park in November. because of what you just said. Like Colorado State's a really good team.
Yeah.
And they played great. And both teams played well enough to win. But kind of the thing that Nico Medved said afterwards, Maryland made one more play, and they made it at the most pressure-packed time. So hats off to Maryland. But you kind of get into this survive and advance thing of what are you going to go beat yourself up over? You didn't win by more.
Right.
I mean, you won.
Right, correct.
And there are only 16 teams that have a chance to win this whole thing, and Maryland's one of them. So, it's kind of a next play mentality that if there were issues that, Maryland can get better on in a game or their next game, then address those, and they will. But they should feel really good about what they did. That was a hell of a win.
Did the depth seem to impact them at all last night? Like it did for a little bit. Like some missed free throws at the end. The rebounding was kind of rough last night. Did it seem like the depth impacted them at all last night in that game in particular?
I couldn't really tell that. It wasn't something that jumped out to me. But I don't know. I mean, I always found it, like I played a million years ago, but we lost in the national championship game by a bucket to Louisville. And after the game, there were people saying, well, we had played in this hellacious semifinal, we were tired and all that stuff. And I go, oh, stop it. Like nobody ever says that the winning team was tired.
Yeah.
Like we got beat. We didn't get beat because we were tired. We got beat because we didn't make the play when it was required to be made. And so I don't really worry about that. Some teams win with playing 6 guys, and other teams play 10. Michigan State plays 10 guys, and when they're winning, it's because of their depth.
Right.
When they're losing, it's because they're playing too many people and they can't get any rhythm.
Fair.
Like what are we doing here? Like you can win and lose a variety of ways. Like that's sort of the competitor thing. Like everybody says they're a competitor. But real competitors realize, hey, we can lose. Like that's possible. It's like a boxer going into a boxing match thinking he's not going to get hit. Like you're going to get hit, and you're gonna have to win a game that you could easily lose in the tournament early on. That happens to all the. I don't mean to digress too far, but in 1990 was my first year as an assistant coach at Duke. I was a graduate assistant, and we made it to the national championship game. We got beat by 30 by UNLV, who was a juggernaut.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my friends afterwards said, geez, what a beating. And I said, it came down to one possession. And he's like, what? And I go, yeah, if Ball State would have made that shot at the end of the UNLV Ball State game, we wouldn't have to play UNLV.
Yeah, that's a great
Like
point.
UNLV had a one-possession game against Ball State, like in the second round, and Ball State had them beat. And UNLV wound up winning the game. But a team that good had a one-possession game. It happens.
That said, Jay Bilas is with us here on GCR. Maryland hasn't lost a game by more than 6 points all season, which is kind of absurd. Like even the national championship team didn't do that. I have no reason to think as deep. I know how good Florida is. They were probably the best team down the stretch in the country, given the quality of opponents they were beating. I know how good they are. I know that they're 10 deep and that their fast break is insane, but there is no reason for me to think, given everything that Maryland has done this year, that they aren't capable of at least going toe-to-toe with Florida on Thursday night.
Of course they are. And you play in the Big Ten like Maryland has and play the quality competition. Like Maryland's fully capable of slowing the game down to the point, and by slowing it down, I mean taking Florida out of transition. Like, because that's what UConn did to them. And Maryland's better than UConn. And I think they're better anyway. But UConn made Florida into more of a half-court team. That tends to happen in NCAA tournament games. The thing that stood out to me about Maryland, and I don't know whether this is right or wrong, but it's just my perspective. So when that shot Colorado State hit to go up, when they hit that three off the relocation pass, after what's happened to Maryland this year, losing close games, Michigan State throws in a half-court shot, they lose this game, they lose that game. I think the tendency would be, here we go again. Like shoulders slumped, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But that didn't happen. Like they responded and not only make the shot, but execute to get the shot, that they and get it to the guy they wanted in the position they wanted. That's not easy to do in those situations, and they did it. And to me, that speaks to their athletic character. Like, that's a really big deal in my view, that they didn't let the past cloud what they were going to do in the moment. And that, I think that was a really, because I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but I would imagine that most Maryland fans were going, "Oh, here we go
again." 100%. It's funny.
And the players aren't immune to that. Like, the players, that feeling exists for everybody, but that didn't bother them, or at least it didn't seem to. And I think that says a lot about that.
It's a testament. I think it's a testament too to how well coached this team has been this season, Jay. And I know obviously there's a lot of drama in that department at the moment that we have to separate from the team on the floor, and it's an interesting era of college basketball. But one of the things that's impressed me most is Kevin Willard out of timeouts. I'm not trying to make him Gary Williams, because you're talking about one of the greatest X's and O coaches in basketball history, but my God, has this team been good out of timeouts this season, and it has felt like there has been a clear impact of the coaching that they have gotten this year, on top of obviously having 5 really good players in their starting lineup.
Yeah, they've got good players, and coaching is a huge deal, but along with coaching comes execution.
Right.
And the team executes. And like I think you just made the point, like, they haven't had a more than a 6-point game this year. That's remarkable.
It's insane.
And it shows that they've got a competitive nature to them, that when you're in this many games and you're sharpened by that kind of competition, that can only help you in this time of year, in my view. That doesn't mean you're not going to get beat. Like, half the teams that play get beat. And there's only going to be one team standing at the end of this. But I would have to – and I'm not sure the tournament is necessarily reflective of the season you've had, because last year Auburn had a fantastic season. They get beat by Yale, and everybody thinks they sucked. And that's not true. But and you can have a really poor – like last year, NC State had a really poor season.
Yep.
And they had a great end. And their coach still got fired the next year. So these things are not necessarily linked together, but when you do it the way Maryland's done it the regular season and the tournament, it's pretty clear validation that they've done it the right way, and they're really good.
Can I ask what you make of all of the other stuff, all of the sort of sidebar? Like, I guess we're living in the era where there are no more distractions, right? Like, the Will Wade thing at McNeese clearly wasn't a problem for them. It is a complicated situation where Kevin Willard's saying, I'd like to stay. I want there to be more of a focus on basketball in a league where the league says you got to be focused on football. That's the way that it goes. Even if Maryland football is not very good, that's the nature of the beast. Are you surprised by how open he's been, how much he's discussed about this publicly? Is it a good thing for his kids that, hey, we know all of the truth? Like, nobody's hiding anything from us at this point.
Well, I think that's the better policy is to be honest about things, but that's not always possible in today's media landscape. What I would say is, if this kind of thing were going on 10 years ago, where the players were stuck in a place, that might affect them a little bit more.
Right.
When they're going, wait a minute, I have to come back next year. If I leave, I have to give up a year of my life and sit out. That's a different feeling than the players have now, where it's hey, if something happens, the portal's open to me too. Like, the coaches portal and the administrators portal is always open. And, I don't know exactly what has been going on with Kevin, but say for argument's sake, let's say it's true that Villanova, through channels reached out, nobody calls that tampering or poaching or all that stuff. When a member institution goes after another member's coach under contract, that's standard practice. But boy, if it happens with a player, the sky's falling, and this is unacceptable, and we need guardrails. Until somebody in a position of power calls for guardrails on the way universities behave with regard to employees under contract, I'm not listening to them complain about players. Like that's the height of contradiction to the point of hypocrisy.
The point that he made about a basketball-specific GM, right? Do programs at this level need that? Is that required given the nature of the job? How much you have to be scouting other college basketball teams during the course of the year to try to put together a roster for the following season on top of the traditional recruiting? Like, do you have to have someone like that in each program at this level if you're going to compete to win national championships?
I don't think anything's required, but what I would say is it makes perfect sense to have somebody in a general manager type role where the coaching staff deals with basketball in this context. It deals with basketball, and the money issues are dealt with by someone else.
Yeah.
So if there's a problem with an NIL deal, instead of going to Kevin or some of the assistants, they can say, hey, go to the GM. GM will handle that.
Yep.
And then the GM can say, if the player comes in and says, hey, look, I'm happy with my money, but my playing time, I don't like my playing time. Like, I need to play more. Well, that's not my area. You go talk to the coach. If you're not happy with the playing time, go talk to the coach. It's nice having that separation of responsibility, which is why people in our business, in the media business, that's why we have agents. I don't want to negotiate with my bosses. I let my agent do that. And then I deal with assignments and all that other stuff with my bosses and feedback on how I'm doing and all that. I wouldn't want to deal with that. And that's why you have that. That's why you have that available to you. And I think it's a smart way to do it. Now, scouting can be handled you can have a GM in charge of that, but the coaches have to be able to make the decisions over this player makes sense for us. I want to coach this guy. I'd rather not coach this guy. That the coaches, I think, need to be involved in at the college level.
All right, last one for you, I promise. The everybody screaming about whether or not it's never going to be called. I don't even know for sure that it was traveling. I don't know why it's something we're even wasting our time on this morning. Like, this to me is not an actual controversial call. If by letter of the law it is, it hasn't been called that way in eternity. Why are we talking about it?
When I watched it live and when I saw it, it didn't even occur to me it was a travel.
Yeah.
When you watched it in slow motion, you're saying, okay, maybe. Here's the way I look at it. So, Gene Steratore, who's fantastic, former official in both college basketball and the NFL, is CBS's officiating guy. So when he was on, he justified the call, saying, "Here's how the travel rule works. The gather, all that stuff." What I would have asked is, if it had been called on the floor as a travel, would you have said it was an incorrect call? That I think is the issue, because my guess is, and it's only a guess, I'm not putting this on Gene, I'm putting it on anybody in that sort of role, a supervisor's role or something. My experience with supervisors is they will basically justify any close call as being right.
Yeah.
And I've asked supervisors that. There was a call years ago, John Clockerty with the ACC at the time. There was some controversial call, and he justified. And I said, if it was called the other way, would you have justified it? He started laughing. He goes, all right, you put me on the spot. He goes, I probably would have. And I really appreciated that response. Officiating's difficult. And I, whether you're a Colorado State fan or a Maryland fan, does anybody really want a whistle blown there?
Nope.
I don't think it was. I didn't think it was a travel when I saw it, and I feel like it was officiated the right way.
And to the same point, if he had missed the shot, he was absolutely bumped and shoved out on that play. And in no world would we have ever thought that foul would have been called in that spot either. It's just.
Yeah, that's interesting. I can be critical of officials at times, and overall officiating, which is not on the officials, it's on who puts the rules together and how they're enforced. I think the game generally is too physical during the regular season, and then I think it changes when we get to the and by physical I mean grabbing cutters and things like that.
Sure.
It's much cleaner in the NCAA tournament because the officials know they have to call it a certain way or they're not going to advance, and I think it makes for a better game. Yeah, but that's just me. That's just my perspective. I don't expect other people to hold that. But I think it should be officiated the same way all year long in every league. But maybe that's unrealistic.
Other than an occasional elbow that gets thrown in the first half of a game and goes unreviewed. That still happens from time to time. Jay,
well, the review thing needs to change. We need the NBA rule of each coach gets one challenge, and if they win it, they keep it for one more, and then that's it. Because this business about going over to the monitor every time the ball goes out of bounds is insanely stupid. And I think there's going to be movement there this year. We also need to go to quarters, but I don't know how much movement there'll be there.
Jay, when are we seeing you? What's life look like for you for the next couple of weeks?
Because ESPN doesn't own the tournament, it's a CBS property. We're studio stuff, and so the next time will be next weekend when we do our studio shows, and then the Final Four where we got game day.
Yep.
And then you can move to another country to hear me on the Final
international
Four.
broadcast.
I do the ESPN international broadcast, and my NIL deals in Latvia are unbelievable.
You're killing it. You're killing it over there. That's awesome. Jay, always appreciate it, man. Thank you. I know it's a busy time. Appreciate you hopping on with us this morning as we're still reveling and having a lot of fun here in Maryland. Thank you for doing this.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Jay Bilas with us here on GCR. Look, I'm in a weird place when it comes to reviews because, like, there's a part of me that would say in the NCAA tournament, I'm not going anywhere. I know the point that you're making, and particularly, and you can go ahead and call Jeremy. We only have one more break to take, so we can take it afterwards. I know the point that you're making, and particularly during the regular season. My God, no one wants that. But in the NCAA tournament, I don't lose my mind the same way that other people do about all of the reviews late in games. I'm watching the games. It's like when I talk about football. I'm watching. I'd rather you get the call right. Regular season, it's a problem. It's the same the way that you guys maybe feel differently about the baseball postseason than you do about the baseball regular season. When you guys say, hey, I'm okay with the extra inning rule in the regular season, but I don't want it in the postseason. And I get the point. I'm watching. If it takes 15 innings to get a winner, it takes 15 innings to get a winner. Let's go do it. You're not losing me. It's postseason baseball. And I feel that way about the NCAA tournament. I get annoyed by it, and I'll make jokes about the fact that, like, they spend 5 minutes. Last night, it went from, 3.6 seconds to 3.7 seconds on review. And there was a timeout anyway, so, like, it wasn't the review that stopped the game. Maryland took a timeout. But it did go on a couple minutes longer than a regular timeout would have gone for the difference in 0.1 seconds. Still, I do want the calls to be right. And in the NCAA tournament, I feel differently about it than I do about a game between, Southern Illinois and Drake on a Thursday in January.
Well, that's the problem. You should care about that.
I know. You've lost a lot of money on those games. I understand.
I bet on Drake, so.
Oh, you're good. I see. But I get the point, and the point would be, if we can do this over a tenth of a second, we sure as F should be able to do it over. And by the way, in the Arkansas St. John's game, they were looking at goaltendings 3 minutes later.
Imagine taking a point off the board. Now
Right.
there's 2 minutes left in the game.
And it was deep in the second half, to your point. It was late in the second half, and they were reviewing goaltending calls from minutes ago. And yet we can't look at an elbow to everyone in the country is sharing the video because we're all watching the tournament. Everyone in the country is sharing it out, but on the floor they're like, sorry. That doesn't work. This man is bullish about Maryland's chances on Thursday night. Joining us now, of course, ConcreteLocks.com, Big Bad Morning Show, 105.7 The Fan. He is our pal, Mr. Jeremy Conn, and we can talk some sports with him for a change, although I do have still some thoughts about White Lotus as well. Good morning, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I didn't have a great day yesterday. I was happy that the Terps won. I had them minus 7.5. I was fantastic on Saturday, and I was equally as bad yesterday. So it was kind of a wash of a weekend for me.
All right. Well, now I don't know how I feel about the fact that you like Maryland's chances on Thursday night. Now I don't know how to feel about it.
Well, I got them right the first round. I just didn't they fell behind against Colorado State, and then obviously in the second half they were just kind of trading blows. I just left my therapist's office, and her husband's a college basketball coach, and she was asking me, she goes, do you think that was a travel? And I was like, back in my day, it probably could be called that. I don't know you'd call it at the end of the game, but today, it's not a travel.
It's been 25 years. It's been 25 years since that's been a travel. Legitimately 25 years. I don't know what we're doing here. If it would been, if it been,
Funny you say that because when I was playing, it was over 25 years ago.
But that's what like the change of the century to me really is about when the line demarcation and the notion that like some people, if you didn't want Maryland to win, if you bet Colorado State, whatever it is, you're screaming about this. Everyone else, every neutral person that watched that game last night has the exact same point to make, and I mean this from the. This is not if. Derik Queen got fouled on that play. Unquestionably got fouled. But it's never going to be called, and you don't want it to be called. And if Maryland had lost, if Derik Queen misses that shot, there would be zero conversation for me today about the idea that he should have been, like, should have gotten a foul there. None. Because we all know that's not happening. It's not. Forget it.
To your point, too, like, the only thing I complained about this weekend, and I actually won the game, was the refereeing in the Arkansas St. John's game. It's like, for crying out loud, nobody came to see you guys. Stop calling all this ticky-tack nonsense. And, like, even fouling players out for, like, what could be deemed as a hand check to a degree. Like, it's crazy to me, man. And some of that, too, has to do with not just that there's a lot of fouls called, but if you call, let's say, 8 fouls in a 2-minute span, all of a sudden that 2 minutes becomes, 15, 20, and the flow of the game is just messed up.
We were just talking a second ago about, like, everybody hates all the reviews at the end of the game, and I understand it. I do feel differently in the NCAA tournament than in the regular. Like, this is how you define the season, is what happens here. I like that they get all the calls right, and it's annoying, and it takes forever, and I understand that. You're talking to me about the flow of the game. I get it, but I want them to get the calls right, and maybe it's you got a 20-second timer, you put it on. If you can't determine something within 20 seconds, you just default to whatever the call was on the floor. I'm not opposed to trying to improve it, but I'm watching. This is the NCAA tournament that we're talking about. I'm not suddenly saying, well, they've gone to the monitor 3 times in the final 3 minutes. I'm bailing on the game that's going to determine 2 teams' season. Nah, no thanks. I'd rather go watch a rerun of The Big Bang Theory. Like, I am still in favor of getting it right in those moments.
Oh, I am too. I just think sometimes we get, like, you have the eye in the sky in the NFL. There's some things where you could have somebody watching it that's not on the floor and just say, hey, guys, this is what it is. And I think it could eliminate some of their problems. But, again, I have no issues with anything. Like, I loved this weekend. I thought it was great.
This one was
Thursday,
yours.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I said this, this is the tournament for Jeremy Conn. Like, this is the one that he's been waiting for. Get rid of all the other teams. It's all the best teams. All the other stuff that everybody, like, this is, I was imagining you sitting around pantsless for this.
But yeah, the only thing that could have made this slightly better is, who did I have? Oh, I had Illinois, and they just played like trash yesterday, man. And I give credit to Kentucky because it was funny. Like, you start doing research, and there's nothing worse than when you've sat down and researched teams. One of the things about Kentucky and Illinois is that they don't force a lot of turnovers. Well, then Illinois comes out and just starts turning the ball over left and right. And it's not even the good turnovers when you have an over. It's hey, we held the ball for 25 seconds and then just threw it out of bounds. Great. Wonderful. So, but yeah, if Illinois would have moved on, I'd have felt great. But again, that would have been an upset, though, technically. But it just would have helped my bracket.
So why do you like Maryland's chances on Thursday night? Because I want to, and I don't think that they're going to be run off the floor. But as much as I can continue to say all of the same things over and over again about, long timeouts, long halftime, I do think that we see little glimpses of how the depth hurts Maryland. Like, I think we see, Julian Reese gets into foul trouble against Michigan. Is that why they lost? No, but it hurt them unquestionably. They weren't great last night in general, but it also kind of looked to me down the stretch, like when they were missing some free throws and they were getting dominated on the boards, that they were losing their legs a little bit. Like, I really do worry still that the depth is the ultimate game changer and why they're going to lose. And Florida seems like the obvious team to me that would be able to take advantage of it given how deep they are.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say this much. You're not wrong on what you're talking about with Florida. I mean, they can go 10 deep, but to be honest, like, this last game, they kind of went 8 deep, and then they had another, like, you could say 9, but, like, that is the big concern with Maryland, is that you get in foul trouble and all of a sudden you're not the same team. But I'll say this, like, Maryland's last 4 losses all by buzzer beaters. You couldn't tell me that if those things go the other way, and granted, I know it's basketball, they've had They just had a win off a buzzer beater that could have changed everything. But with all that being said, this is still a top team. And then we've talked about how they fall into Ken Palm's rankings. The one thing about Florida that is kind of concerning is, and I said this, it's like blood in the water with piranhas whenever the ball gets out in the transition, because you blink and then all of a sudden all the Florida guys are in the front court ready to play, and you're going, where the hell did these guys come from? So, and it happens quickly with them. They have good three-point shooters, but I think Maryland plays good defense. I think they've got more size and that they should win on the boards against Florida. The one thing you have to worry about is those quick scores from Florida, and if they get out in transition and start like knocking down everything. But I think Maryland, I like Maryland to win. I love them to cover.
My God, man, I need you to come like rock me to sleep at night the way that you're making me feel better about this. I need you, or again, I say that like you don't normally.
And
do
again,
that.
like so I said at the beginning of the tournament, like I fill out 3 brackets every year. I was going to take Maryland to win one of them. When all the Kevin Willard and Damon Evans stuff started, I switched up and went to Tennessee in that bracket, and I don't have Maryland winning. So, but with all that, like I think Rob brought it up. He goes, "This isn't like before when your coach is leaving
It's
and all
crazy,
of a sudden
isn't it?
Kids fold. All these kids are bouncing around all
Yep.
over the place. So
Yep.
I don't think it really matters as much. Do you?
We were just talking about it with Jay Bilas a minute ago, Jeremy. Like we are in a different world where, like, it's not that I don't think that they care. I do think they care. I think they wanted to know, and I know you had Jeff Erman on this morning. According to Jeff, he told them that he is staying, and we'll see if that's, legitimate or if that's just him, trying to prevent it from being more of a distraction than it is. But watching the way that Will Wade so openly discussed his scenario, and I think everybody in the country knew that Nico Medved was leaving for Minnesota, and yet that didn't appear to impact the guys at Colorado State one bit in the NCAA tournament. I think you're right. I think we're just at a place where all these guys know, like, hey, if I'm not happy, if I don't like the next guy, if there's a better opportunity, I can just bolt too. And so who really cares what this guy is doing?
So where I think it does matter is still with the college football bowl games, because I feel like when you find out your coach is leaving, like everything changes. Like these kids are, and even if kids are leaving too, but like that's the one thing where I do feel like things can fall apart for these teams because of their coach leaving. But right now,
and the
way
NIT
it
would be the
stands,
compare.
I don't have an issue with it at all.
Yeah, like that impacts, but that's also because the game is meaningless, right? Like this is you're still playing for something. Like these guys want to win a national championship, and it's easy to say, "Hey, Colorado State was never going to win a national championship," but for Colorado State making the Sweet 16, it's not the equivalent of winning a national championship, but you're going to be remembered forever. If they win that game last night, anytime they go back to Fort Collins, Colorado, they don't have to pay for a meal because they were the team that got them back to the Sweet 16 for the first time in, what was it, like 50-some years since they had been there? That matters. Like, yeah, you're bummed. You don't like the fact that you don't know what the story is with the coach or where you're going to be playing, but I think they understand the impact of this. Like, I get a little emotional about how personal it is for Derik Queen, right? Like he can joke about, I'm just getting paid my money, but he did take less money than he would have gotten at Indiana to come to Maryland, and he does want to scream about Baltimore. And God, it's a different era of college basketball, but God, that's so effing cool, man. Like as a fan, it's just awesome to hear how personal it is for him, and talking to Juju Reese about how personal this has been for him this year. Like, there's something special about that. Like, it really does sort of like, get my blood flowing as a sports fan.
You know what? The only thing that sucks is this is a really special team that they have. It only sucks that they're going to get 1 year of
No, this is it, right?
This is it. Yeah, that's this day and age in sport. And the other thing is, like, if Kevin Willard leaves, I don't know what this team looks like because I would assume some of the guys here might even transfer out and go with him.
Yes, if Willard goes, then almost certainly Gillespie Gillespie and Rice are almost certainly with him next year at Villanova if that's the way that this plays out.
And again, then Maryland's left holding the bag, wondering, okay, well, who do we get now, and can we hit the hell out of this transfer portal and make next season look at least decent after having a phenomenal season this year?
Jamie, you know what the crazy part is? I had this conversation with somebody over the weekend. The crazy part is almost in deciding your coach now, you might be looking specifically for a coach at a program where he has players to bring with him. Like,
yeah,
that you if for some reason this plays out and Kevin Willard leaves and Maryland's in the market for a coach, and they are looking at one guy, and I'll just use names for the sake of using. Let's say they were looking at Ryan Odom, and I don't know what Ryan Odom's roster looked like at VCU, but they look at the VCU roster and they say none of these guys have any eligibility left that you would want. Yeah, we think Ryan Odom is a great coach, but we're also looking at throw another name in. But if it had been Nico Medved, and they looked at Colorado State's roster and said, and he's got 4 guys that he could bring with him next year, even if you think in your heart of hearts that Ryan Odom might be the better coach, you might just then go hire Nico Medved to say, but we need to have a basketball team next season, and we're trying to build off a really good year, and we got a way better chance of doing that with this guy because he's going to be able to bring 4 players with him next season.
I mean, I think you probably nailed it of what they'd have to do. It's almost like we got to do to somebody what Villanova did to us, right? Like, that's kind of how you have to look at it. But I'm kind of hoping that Jeff Erman's right and that he gets what he wants and he stays here, because I think he showed us he's a good coach. I think he showed us he can recruit. I don't know how much more you can ask for except for success and wins, and the only way to find that out is to keep him around. So, I think I feel good about that.
Jeremy, I genuinely believe that he proved that he could make a difference as an in-game coach this season. Like I didn't know what I thought of Kevin Willard 2 years in, and obviously everybody was disappointed by last year because it wasn't just they were bad; they were unwatchable. Like, it was some of the worst basketball we've ever seen. But what they did out of timeouts this season, and you give all the credit in the world to the group of players that executed, but it really made me believe that he can be a difference maker as an in-game X's and O's coach. And to your point, it's why I'd be inclined to say, you know, even if they lose to Florida on Thursday and his greatest accomplishment is still reaching a Sweet 16, you're not the grass. I'm not assuming the grass is greener somewhere else. I think you've got a guy that's capable of being a difference maker and understands what it takes to construct a roster now in this era of basketball.
So let me ask you this question, because I didn't like the bracket that the Terps were put in, or the region. If the Terps were playing any other number 1 seed, would you feel better about that?
I don't think Duke is as good as everybody else does. I think Cooper Flagg's really good. I think I'm not as I think that they were able to, against lesser opponents, really look dominant. And I think we know how bad the ACC was this year. Like, they should have looked that dominant every game. And this is not even like me because I hate Duke. It's I don't think they're quite as good as a lot of people made them out to be. They feel to me like some of those Gonzaga. Was the ACC better than like the West Coast Conference? Probably. But some of those Gonzaga teams that inflated their win totals in conference play, not the ones in more recent years that have like dominated non-conference and like beat Kentucky and beat Camp, but those few years where Gonzaga was just like winning 30 games, this Duke team kind of reminds me of that. But I'm not knocking Cooper Flagg. He's as good as everyone thinks he is. And obviously Proctor.
I mean, he's the best player in college basketball right now. I mean, the guy's just – and then again, like I wouldn't – I think Maryland could beat Houston, and I think they would be a bad matchup for Houston personally.
Okay.
And look, Maryland's going to be a bad matchup for a lot of teams because you have an athletic big that can run the point.
Right.
You have another big that's down there, and he doesn't even care about scoring. It's like, hey, everything, they'll share the ball. They go, like, they're going essentially 5 deep and not much more than that, only when they need to. So I do think they're dangerous, and they're a top 30 defensive team and a top 20 offensive team. And, like, Texas Tech was the team I had going to the Final Four. I think Maryland's playing Texas Tech next weekend.
I know you've been bullish on Texas Tech. I like Texas Tech a lot too. I'm also feel pretty bullish about Houston as well. I still come back to Jeremy that with Maryland, I'm eternally worried about a little bit of foul trouble, and not that they're going to get run off.
Happen.
Yeah, not that they're going to get run off the floor, because I don't think they are, but that ultimately it just takes them out of who it is they're capable of being, and that's how they lose. I've assumed all year that not that they were going to be doomed in round 1, but that at some point, whenever Maryland lost, we're going to sit back and say, yep, the depth got them. Because it's just really hard. I know what everybody's saying, but teams don't win with 5 guys. You can say they win with 6. They do. Sometimes they win with 6. but you don't win with 5. Like, that's really unprecedented to do this. And so
you know what's really tough is that, like, they don't have, like, when things go awry in the first half, let's say the first 5 minutes, and you're just struggling offensively, most teams would go to their 6th man.
And
it's
say,
a guy that
yep.
you're bringing off the bench that he knows
Give
his
him a
goal is
burst.
to go up there and put up shots.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, so they don't have that because they start their 5 best players, and it just happens to be how it works out.
Oh, and it's
and
exactly
I really
the
don't
opposite.
know what they have behind those guys.
Yeah, when Deshaun Harris-Smith comes into the game, you're terrified of the idea of him putting up a shot. Like, you are mortified. He took one from the corner last night, and it was just like, dude, when you're wide open, we don't want you shooting the ball. You could have maybe 3 guys on someone else, and you're like, please pass the ball. Please do not take this shot. And it's just that's the unfortunate part. All right, what else is going on in your world? I mean, the Orioles play this week. That's kind of crazy. That popped up.
Yeah, I mean, I said something to Rob. Rob's like, he goes, hey, I'm flying out to Toronto on whatever, Wednesday. And I'm going, hold on, is the season starting this week? I went, oh, my God, I didn't even think about it.
I'm so drunk on
and I knew
basketball.
it was coming up.
Yeah, I'm so drunk on basketball. I said that to Griffin early in the show. I'm like, I haven't even bothered acquiring tickets for next Monday yet. Like, I hadn't even thought about it until it just came out. I'm like, oh, crap, I got to get tickets for Monday. Like, we're doing that
Are you going to treat Thursday like it's? I have some buddies that are all getting together at the bar to watch the game, and I can't tell you the last time we've done this as Oriole fans. Like, they're starting the season on the road, and it's like, hey, we all got to get together and watch this game like it's a playoff game.
That's cool.
Yeah.
No, we haven't even I haven't even had a conversation. Actually, I know it's impossible because that son of a bitch. I don't know. I don't think I've told you this. My older son is training with our buddy Steve Johnson. Like, he's doing some pitching training and stuff like that up in Bel Air. Yeah. And he had been doing Wednesday nights, but Steve was like, hey, do you want to move to Thursday nights? And I said, yes. And then he said, all right, cool. How about like 5:30 on Thursday? So it's the worst possible timing that this is the week that we're moving to Thursday, and that I had told my wife I would take him up there because it's right smack dab in the middle of the baseball game, and I don't know if I'm going to be home in time for the start of the basketball game. Like, you son of a bitch. But, yeah, it's been good for my kids. So I'm happy. It's been very good.
Stupid kid, you're ruining my life.
It's been very good for my kid. All right, so I'm assuming you didn't watch last night's White Lotus yet?
No, and it's funny because my wife is. I can't watch it as soon as I get home, so I got to wait for her. We have all, and I'm sure you do, and everybody's in couples. You have your shows you watch together. But my wife fully understands with her working overnight. If something comes out on a Sunday and she's working Monday, I'm watching that damn thing. So
I'm gonna.
I'm not waiting. I don't want anybody to ruin it.
It makes it impossible for me to have this conversation with you. So I'm gonna need you to tell her that, like, the night, at least of the finale, can you please get her to try to, like, change her
Is
schedule?
the finale next week?
I think is it 2 weeks? I'm gonna double check.
Hold on,
I thought they usually did like 8 episodes.
Yeah,
but like there are some series that are different.
Hang on a second.
I hold on.
Griffin alleges to me that he's getting the answer for us to this. April 6th is the final. So yeah, 2 more weeks.
Yeah, but I did see some movies. I saw Novocaine.
Oh, I haven't watched Novocaine yet.
It's fun. It's kind of cool. Like, it's I don't think it's like spectacular or anything, but I really enjoyed watching it. My wife and I went and saw Black Bag. That was great.
What is Black Bag? I don't even know what that is. I
want to see that one too.
What's Black Bag?
Yeah, Black Bag is like British agents or whatever. What are they? MI or whatever
it's like
the hell
some
they're
sort
called.
of spy movie, right?
Yeah, it's a spy movie, and then there's this group of spies, and they have a dinner. So it has like Kate. Is it Kate Blanchett?
Yes, yeah, Kate Blanchett. Is it Michael Fassbender and somebody else probably?
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of people that you'll recognize in there, but it's like twists and turns of, all right, who's the one that sold out the group as they're trying to figure it out.
All right.
And,
I would spend
time.
time
And the term
with that.
black bag is something that spies would say apparently in England, where it's like, hey, where are you going this weekend? Up, black bag. Like, I can't tell you.
Got it.
That's where the term comes from. Yeah.
I told you I finally watched Nora. I enjoyed it.
Did you like it?
I did. I enjoyed it. I didn't watch enough of these movies to be able to tell you whether or not it deserved to win Best Picture, but I thought it was really good. Like, I
wanted to watch The Brutalist, and my buddy goes, yeah, it's good, but it's so boring.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm tired of those movies like There Will Be Blood, which is a great effing movie that I'll never watch again more than likely. You know, like, it's just these slow plotting movies that are good, but you're not going to get me twice on it.
Yeah, Anora was fun until it wasn't, obviously. Like then it was oh god. But it was a
But that's what I like woman where it's not like, hey, everything's going to be golden. You
right.
know, like
right.
Yeah.
No, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really good. All right, pal. What's the schedule look like for you this week?
For me, I don't think there's anything major going on. I'll be in at the radio station every day I'm still doing all the other tournaments, the NIT, the CTI, CBI, IBS, whatever the hell. I'm betting on all of them.
You can find that at Concrete
Following
Locks.
all that.
Yeah, concretelocks.com. Go find out what he likes for the CI double ABCDEFG.
There you go.
ABCDEFU. Yeah, go do that right now. JCon Sports on Twitter. Big Bad Morning Show 105.7 The Fan. Love you, buddy. Let's talk next Monday.
Thanks, guys. I'll see you.
Jeremy Conn with us as he is every week here on GCR. All right, we'll come back in. We will wind things down for a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Tidbit and Tubular next.
Baltimore's Classic 5 golf courses make golf fun and affordable. All 5 local courses, Pine Ridge, Mount Pleasant, Forest Park, Carroll Park, and Clifton Park, are challenging and fun for players of all skill levels. Book your tee time today at classic5golf.com.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in Maryland. But don't worry, protection is within arm's reach. Protect your health with this year's COVID-19 and flu shots. It's safe and convenient to get them both at the same time. Flex your protection. For more information, visit health.maryland.gov/vaccines.
This message paid for by the Maryland Department of Health. Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
March is a slam dunk at Live Casino. Catch all the basketball action and more at Sports and Social. Enter our $80,000 Dolce & Gabbana giveaway on March 28th. And catch the Baltimore baseball jersey giveaway March 31st. Take your shot at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. At Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Glenn Clark and I sit down for a Q&A with Orioles owner David Rubenstein, discussing what he learned from his first year as owner, his goals both on and off the field, and his involvement in baseball decisions. Also inside, Brooks DeBose profiles new Oriole Tyler O'Neill, and we meet college lacrosse players from around the state. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores. Or you can read the entire issue online at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR as we are winding down for a Monday edition of the program. Wild weekend in lacrosse, really. Like, really wild weekend. Top 3 teams in the country all lose, including Maryland, suffering their first loss. They cannot beat Michigan. Like, it's really weird. They cannot beat Michigan. Third straight loss to Michigan. They lose in triple overtime. The only undefeated team left in college lacrosse is?
Denver.
No.
Colgate.
No.
Princeton.
No. Let's see if I give you 20 guesses.
Salisbury.
Well, I mean, that's D3. D1, they are undefeated.
That's because it's, are they Big Ten? Penn State.
I said I was going to give you 20 guesses.
Penn State.
No.
Because Notre Dame lost.
Twice. Just guess a team.
Let's go with Boston College.
Okay, they don't have a program.
They don't have a men's team?
Not a men's team.
Okay.
No. Jesus.
Northwestern, they don't have a men's team.
They definitely don't have it. Wow.
They don't have a
It
men's
took
team
you
either?
4 before you went to 2 that don't even have
Well, they're
programs.
really good women's teams.
They do, yes.
Towson's not undefeated. You said completely defeated or defeated? Loyola's completely defeated.
Yeah, they are, unfortunately.
Not
Fairfield.
them. Fairfield.
Is the
Fairfield.
answer.
That was what I said.
Fairfield,
I said
the only
Fairfield.
undefeated team left.
Fairfield's undefeated.
Yeah, on the local front, Towson wins again in overtime. Just trying to.
Never in doubt.
Yeah. They beat Stony Brook. UMBC, speaking of overtime, I think we're going to have a player on this week. They were down 11-5 at Albany in the fourth quarter.
Jeez.
11-5. Rallied, forced overtime, and won 13-12 on the road at Albany. So, which is obviously a huge win in the America East on top of that. So we'll find out about that because that's crazy. Hopkins loses to Rutgers. Navy did hold on in overtime and beat Holy Cross, and not great times at Loyola. 8 losses, 4 of which all by 1 goal, including a 1-goal loss to Lafayette at home on Saturday. So not ideal. We do know that Gunnar Henderson will not be on the opening day roster. He'll be on the IL for at least 7 days, and Felix Batista will be on the roster. Cade Povich does get the 5th rotation spot, which seemed to be the only option.
Kyle Gibson's back.
Yeah, we haven't been on since the Kyle Gibson. God, that feels like it happened forever ago, doesn't it? Kyle Gibson is back, which, as a lot of people pointed out, you don't want to be negative about that because we like Kyle Gibson. He's a good guy. But one, he only offers you so much as a pitcher at this point. And then 2, the real concern is, what do they know about Grayson Rodriguez? Like, what? You can't help.
Well, the good news is that apparently the pitching is going to be fine. We just got to worry about the offense because they threw a no-hitter on Saturday. So
that's right. They did throw
no one's going to be able to ever
hit
the Orioles this season.
Good
Doesn't
point.
matter who's on them.
That did happen. That's true. Mike Elias met with the media yesterday. Is there any more information on the nature of Grayson Rodriguez's elbow injury? Answer, his elbow's inflamed. He got a cortisone shot. We're cooling it down. He's cranking it back up. We'll keep it going, and hopefully the shot worked and the cool-down period worked, and it's behind him, and he can pick up where he left off. Question, it's the back of the elbow? Answer, yeah, it's the back side of his elbow, kind of in that region. Question, structurally with the imaging, there wasn't anything concerning other than the inflammation. Answer, no ligament injury or ligaments or ligamentous or whatever term it is that I've learned and read. He has some inflammation and impingement in the back area of his elbow. We're hopeful that rest and cortisone can kind of clear it out the way. He said, he said he changed a small part of his throwing motion to take the pressure off his lat teres area. Was that something the team approached him with? What do you think about him trying to change that? Is there any thought to maybe that change could have led to what he's dealing with now? Answer, I don't know the answer to that. That's kind of unknowable. He's had lat and shoulder injuries, and working with him and our pitching staff, they decided to take some stress off of those joints. He didn't throw enough here to where I would suspect that was a part of it, but you never know. So, nothing. Other than they're not telling you that there's something worse than what they thought it was to begin with. But yeah, the timing of when they signed Kyle Gibson, you kind of can't help but wonder. Hopefully nothing. Hopefully no relation. Hopefully just one more arm, and you can never have too many arms. But they didn't think that this offseason. They weren't thinking you can never have too many arms. Suddenly thought that right before the start of the season. No idea what to make of it, but that's that. They still have one more. Apparently, everybody seems to think that Matt Bowman is going to get the final bullpen spot that appears to be available, and then they would have to decide on who, if at this point they haven't yet to rule out Jorge Mateo, but if it's not Jorge Mateo, then who would be the other infielder that would come north or go very north with the team? Because they're already north. They're in D.C. today playing an exhibition game, but go to Toronto with the team on Thursday. So we will see. All right, very good. How about a tidbit?
Where do we want to go today? Plenty of different little tidbits on the opening weekend of the NCAA tournament. Jeff Borzello points out, obviously, as we now all know, that there's only one ACC team making it to the Sweet 16.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah. Duke also was the only ACC team to make it to the round of 32 as well, and that is the first time, according to ESPN Stats and Info, that the NCAA, since they started allowing multiple teams from the same conference, so at-large bids into the NCAA tournament, that the ACC will have one or fewer teams into the round of 32. So that was the first time that happened. As Glenn, as you've pointed out, that the ACC
It's dead. It's dead. I mean, like it is. I don't know what else there is to say. It's dead.
First round that we've had, 10 years since the last first round we had without a 30-point scorer in the round of 64. No 30-point scorers in the round of 64.
We did have some this weekend.
Yes, yeah. Somebody who did yesterday. I thought I had it.
Tanjay definitely had 30, right? In the large, he'd have like 29.
Maybe it was Tanjay. I don't know. Somebody definitely did though. I think somebody for Houston. Didn't somebody for Houston score?
I think you're right.
I think Cryer scored a 30.
That sounds right.
So that was in the round of 32. But yeah, the first round of 64 that we didn't have a 30-point score since 2015. Last time before that was 2005. So it seems like we'll have a 30-point score in the next 9 years.
2045.
Yes,
is what you're saying.
Or 2035. Yeah.
So I thought you said it was 2005.
That was,
got it.
Yeah,
got it.
The last time,
sorry, before
2015.
that.
The last time before that was 2005. Yeah. Let's see. Before this season, no conference had ever had 8 teams win a game in 8 different teams win a single game in the NCAA tournament. The Big Ten and the SEC both.
To be fair, also before this year, there hadn't been 50 teams in a conference, so helps the odds.
I have
that would have required literally every team in the conference to have won a game in the Big 8.
First time that the Sweet 16 is composed entirely of major conference teams since the Sweet 16.
Another point that people have brought up, right, is that we're only a couple years removed from, say, BYU being in the Mountain West, or they were in the West Coast Conference, weren't they?
Yeah, they were with.
They weren't even.
Yeah,
they were right. They weren't even in the Mountain West.
Yeah.
They were in the West Coast Conference, and Houston being in the AAC. So. We're talking about this is all power conference teams,
Either way, only.
And
4.
if Gonzaga had made it, if they had won, would we have suddenly been a win for the little guys?
Yeah, we would have.
I guess
everyone would be embracing Gonzaga.
Yeah,
just like we're all embracing Arkansas now.
Correct.
Only 4 different conferences represented. Every other Sweet 16 had at least 7 different conferences.
How about that?
Yeah. And
again, it helps when all of the teams play in the same conferences.
Last year, Michigan went 8-24. Now, of course, in the Sweet 16 under Dusty May, no team has lost 24 games in one season and made the Sweet 16 the very next year.
Say that again. No team has
lost that many. That's the most losses of any team that has made the Sweet 16 the following year. 24 losses for Michigan a year ago. Now in the
I thought that
16.
that Iowa State team that one year, did they not make the Sweet 16?
I mean, how many losses?
The year they had the
not on my list here.
All right.
Or at least not according to Opta.
No, I believe you.
I'll just throw Opta stats under the bus. Opta stats.
Right.
Blame
No,
them.
I believe you. This is the only thing that I could think of. Go ahead.
Not as impressive as so Iowa State went 2-22.
They went 2-22.
So they technically didn't lose 24 games.
Oh, because it was the pandemic season, right?
Gotcha. Yeah,
My bad.
So there you go. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was pretty wild.
I mean, that was the insane. To me, that's the all-time turnaround. That's why I was confused by it. So it's sort of a misleading number where Iowa State was a dramatically worse team.
They had a 100 win percentage
than last year's Michigan team was, but because of the stupid pandemic, all of the non-conference games basically got canceled that year because it was still on the tail end of coming back from the pandemic. And so it was basically just conference play that year. That's the only reason why Iowa State didn't get to that number because, my God.
So there you go, 2 of the more improbable turnarounds, I guess, Michigan and then that Iowa State team
I think the Iowa State one far more improbable.
Michigan lost 24 games, though.
I hear you. I hear you.
Guess it'll depend who you ask.
Go ahead.
Walter Clayton, who we're going to see on Thursday night, he has recorded at least 15
Who also
points.
feels like, but just by his name alone, should be 63 years old.
Walter Clayton?
It's just every Walter is an old guy.
1960s, sounds like
Hard
a 1960s player.
It's really hard to explain that every.
Well, how about because he's also a junior?
Walter
so that
White,
adds to it.
Walter, yeah, that. I
Walter
guess.
Clayton Jr. makes him sound a little younger.
Not really. Not really
Makes
at
him sound
all.
a little younger.
Walter Davis, the former basketball player. Like, Walter is an old name. You should not be a college-age kid with the name Walter.
Walter Clayton Jr. of Florida has recorded at least 15 points and made at least 3 threes in all 4 of his NCAA career tournament games.
Ask me other guys that have done that.
Yeah,
Forget it.
there's only one other player that started their career this century on this side of the millennium.
This side of the century. J.J. Redick.
No.
Maybe I'm focusing on like 3. Adam Morrison.
Mm-mm.
Dougie McBuckets.
Mm-mm. No McBuckets.
It's too broad, man. I don't even know where to begin.
He did it.
Carmelo Anthony.
He did it. No, not Carmelo. Did it in his first 5 games unless he only played in 5 tournament games. I don't know. But from 07 to 08.
7 to 08. Mario Chalmers. It's around that time, though. How about
similar heights as well?
Derrick Rose.
Not Derrick Rose. This guy actually might be tall. I guess he probably is taller.
He's taller than Derrick Rose.
But he's not, by
But then-
NBA.
yeah,
by
I was gonna
NBA
say Derrick Rose
basketball
not.
standards.
Yeah, he's not particularly tall. Because that was a Kansas-Memphis championship game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
this guy was not. He was not in the championship.
He's not in the championship. But I guess if he played 5 games, he would have had to have gotten to...
Yeah, between the 2 seasons, though.
Oh, over the 2 seasons. Got it. Okay. I mean, it's not Tyler Hansbrough. He didn't hit 3s. How about... Was it North Carolina?
Mm-mm.
Was it... I got to go team by team
The
here.
school is in North Carolina.
School isn't... Was it Duke player?
Mm-mm.
Oh, was it Steph Curry?
Steph Curry
Okay,
with Davidson.
all right.
Yes.
Damn.
Steph Curry with Davidson, the only other player this century to hit the 15 points, 3 threes in their first. And then I was gonna do. I mean, we can end on that one. Because I just didn't have too many other individual.
Let's wrap.
I have a Wizards one though, and I know you probably want that one.
Nope, it's time for
Jordan Poole.
let's get tubular.
Jordan Poole
Let's
hit
get tubular.
his 203.
Let's
and I think people want
get
to hear about it.
tubular.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
I did share this last night. I don't know if you saw. I did the the work on this.
Yeah.
Like just the 19th
ultimate
buzzer beater, which would be at absolute 0 on the clock, no time left. So like Sports Reference, for example, I think counts anything with like 3 seconds or under as a buzzer beater, and maybe if you go back a little bit further, they might have even stretched that out to 4 seconds. They count all those the buzzer beater, and a shot that if you had missed, your team would have lost. So game-winning ultimate buzzer beaters, only 19 in NCAA tournament history, and only 2 other schools have multiple ultimate buzzer beaters. Maryland, of course, now has both Drew Nicholas against UNC Wilmington and Derik Queen last night. The 2 other schools that have multiples are...
See, so because the last one was San Diego State.
Yes, it was Lamont Butler in 2023.
And then wasn't it like a long time before?
It was Corey Lucius, in fact. Yeah.
So I bet Michigan State has 2 then.
Do not. Just Corey Lucius.
Because I skimmed the list very quickly, but I knew I thought it could come up, so I didn't want to.
And by the way,
multiple.
I lied. It's 3 other schools. I feel bad.
Schools.
I made this mistake.
Well, how am I supposed to answer now? Duke.
Duke is one of them.
Carolina.
Same player both times for
really?
Duke.
Leitner.
Yep. Not Carolina. Carolina's never had one.
Wow, terrible.
Of course, remember Michael Jordan's shot. There was still time on the clock when he hit it.
All right, so Duke, Maryland. So there's 4 schools that have had multiple ultimate buzzer beaters. UCLA.
Nope.
Oh, let's go with Villanova then.
Nope.
Oh, man.
Of course, Chris Jenkins was not an ultimate buzzer beater because the game was tied.
Oh.
It was tied. Yeah. So they don't actually even have one.
I know, I can't think of any exact situation now. So Syracuse.
They are 2 very. In fact,
I should know.
I would tell you there are 2 schools that played against each other this weekend.
Houston.
Nope.
UNLV.
They
did
not play in the NCAA tournament at all.
I'm just starting to think of. So these both
played
both these
against each other this weekend.
Oh wow!
So one of them won and one of them lost. That's the way that it works.
Was Baylor one of them?
Not Baylor. Played against each other.
They both did play against.
They both played. They played against each other.
Because they played Duke and.
No, the 2 schools that are remaining on this list.
UConn and Florida.
Indeed, are the 2 schools that are involved here. For Florida, Mike Miller in 2000 against Butler, and Chris Chiozza, of course, remember a few years ago against Wisconsin. And then for UConn, it was Rip Hamilton in 1998 against Washington. And I referenced this one last week when KZ was in. Tate George in 1990 against Clemson. Both hit ultimate buzzer beaters. It's difficult. You have to come up with a better term. I'm using ultimate buzzer beaters, but somebody would point out, well, if you hit a 3 when your team was down 3 and forced overtime. No. It's because then you could say you would have lost if you missed the shot. It's hit a shot, game winner, at 0 on the clock where you would have lost had your team had you missed the shot. So Maryland now just the 4th school with 2 of those in NCAA tournament history. All right, here's what's coming up totally TV-wise. Are you going down tonight?
Yeah, I'm going.
Griffin's going to be in attendance.
Let's
go. So if you've been dying to get something signed, your Whip Snakes hat signed by Griffin, he will be in College Park later on today, 5 o'clock, as Maryland takes on Alabama in the 2nd round of the women's tournament. Obviously, it was a little dicey against Norfolk State in round 1. We talked to Brenda last week. We said this is probably a better Norfolk State team than people realize it is. But they ultimately pull away in the 4th quarter and win that. That's at 5 o'clock on ESPN2 between Alabama and Maryland. Women's tournament action all day on ESPN as well, including Mississippi State and USC tonight at 10. Did you see the thing where, I guess maybe there's a Jaden Daniels, Juju Watkins thing?
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
Might be a story to that. Might be something going on
his mom
there.
shut it down, and then she separated them.
UConn plays South Dakota State tonight at 8. So Paige Beckers and Juju Watkins in action tonight. A monumental for Raptors Wizards at 7, NBA TV, Lakers Magic 7, Bucks Suns at 10. Final spring training game of the year, 1:05. The Orioles broadcast on Masson 2. The Nationals broadcast on Masson from down in D.C. Cade Povich makes the start against Jake Irvin. Final spring training game in D.C. Canucks and Devils 7:30 on ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Disney Plus. MLB Network, Yankees, Mets at 1, Braves, Cubs at 4, Red Sox and Sultanes de Monterrey at 9 o'clock. And, of course, you can't bet that because you never throw out all the records when those 2 teams get together.
I'd probably bet it.
Tennis Channel, Miami Open. Naomi Osaka just took the first set, trying to work her way back. She's playing Yasmin Paolini and just took set number 1. Miami Open underway on Tennis Channel. I know the big one for you were really happy to see that Maryland was playing at 5, so you could get home to watch match 1 of the TGL Finals.
Oh, wow.
Between the Atlanta Drive and New York Golf Club tonight at 9 o'clock on ESPN2.
That's a relief.
And Netflix for WWE Raw tonight at 8. Non-sports.
Like they're making the schedule, specifically
just for
me.
you. They knew.
Nah, not really anything. We got the season 29 finale of The Bachelor, so also you'll be able to get home, and I'll be able to. Shush will be able to get home in time for that as well.
That is good news.
The Maryland game. And then you got the Celtic City thing on HBO.
Nope.
That's the only thing. Pedro Pascal and Ike Barinholtz on Kimmel.
Ah, yes, they are promoting Celtic City.
Oh, really?
Yep, that's
That's
what they're promoting, and
changes
Novocaine as well.
Oh, okay.
I think both. It's weird that they're promoting
Nikki
2 different things.
Glaser and Randall Park. How about them on Fallon?
Ah, yes, they are promoting the White Lotus.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, they're just they have theories and they want to talk about them on there. That's what it is.
Cool.
What did I see that Randall Park's in right
I think
now?
He's in that the White House Netflix thing that I was talking about last week.
Oh, that's what it was.
You were
talking about
that.
that. All right.
Yeah.
Very good. Thanks today to Jay Bilas. Thanks also to Johnny Holliday, as well as Josh Pastner and Jeremy Conn. All of the Jays. We'll get them up in the greatest hits section of the...
what was I going to say? For Baltimore, that's why it's at.
At Glenn Clark Radio.
I had it, and then
Wow. Tomorrow on the program, Cooper Rush, new Ravens quarterback, will join us. Patrick, of course, will join us. Talk tournament with him and Stuff and Things.
Yep,
Stuff and Things. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel. Cruise Maryland Crown Trophy, Easy Pass, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Baltimore's Classic 5 golf courses, the Costas Inn, MSAA, Maryland Sports, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Monday evening. Go Maryland women. Duke sucks.